These three gold-devouring beetles were the only three remaining after the ferocious skirmish that had taken place between all of the gold-devouring beetles and beetle monarch candidates. In the urgent situation where Han Li had been transcending his true lightning tribulation, he had released all of his gold-devouring beetles, which had been in a state of hibernation after devouring the water from the spirit cleansing pond. However, they had all been jolted awake by the tribulation, and after consuming much of the black and white ball of lightning, they had begun attacking and devouring one another, which was quite an unexpected and pleasant surprise for Han Li. After his progression to the Grand Ascension stage, these three beetles were the only ones left, and they could be referred to as faux beetle monarchs. Not only were these three faux beetle monarchs far more massive than they had previously been, all of them had lightning-shaped purple patterns on their backs, presenting quite a menacing sight to behold. At the same time, their auras had been significantly enhanced and could virtually compare with that of late-body integration cultivators. In conjunction with the fact that these three faux beetle monarchs were near indestructible and could devour almost everything, they were truly extremely fearsome. Unfortunately, the three faux beetle monarchs had called a truce once again, instead of continuing to devour one another. Otherwise, the gold-devouring beetle monarch that Qing Yuanzi had mentioned to be quite a fearsome prospect, even for true immortals to face, may have come into existence already. All of a sudden, the three giant golden beetles began to fly through the air as three balls of golden light at Han Li's behest. The three golden balls of light were as fast as lightning and whizzed through the air in a wraith-like manner. On top of that, Han Li was able to control them perfectly with his spiritual sense, as if they were extensions of his own body. Han Li was quite pleased with this, and he immediately made a hand seal, upon which the three giant golden beetles rapidly shrank before vanishing up his sleeve. With these three faux beetle monarchs, Han Li essentially had earned himself three late-body integration stage allies, which would undoubtedly be a massive boost for him. After a brief moment of contemplation, Han Li's lips began to move in a silent manner, as if he were transmitting his voice to someone. Shortly thereafter, spatial fluctuations erupted in front of Han Li, and a humanoid figure emerged amid a flash of silver lightning. "You wanted to see me, fellow Taoist Han. Letter 1D4 1F, letter 1D563, letter 1D5F2, letter 1D556, letter 1D568, letter 1D5F2, letter 1D5F0, letter 1D698, letter 1D46. Please take a seat, Brother Zai, and we'll continue our earlier conversation now that we have some privacy," Han Li said with a smile. "Sure. The current situation is very simple. You already satisfy the basic prerequisites to become my master, so if you satisfy a few more of my conditions, I'll be yours for you to use as you see fit," Taoist Zai explained. "Who was the one that established these conditions? You didn't just make them up on the spot, did you, Brother Zai?" Han Li asked in a cautious manner. "Of course not. The conditions were created by my former master, and I'll only reveal them to those who can satisfy the basic prerequisites," Taoist Zai immediately replied. "Your former master was a true immortal, so I'm sure the conditions he's proposed will all be quite meaningful. Tell me the conditions and I'll see if I'll be able to satisfy them," Han Li prompted after a long pause. "All right, to begin with, I have a list of a few items here that I need you to track down," Taoist Zai replied with a nod, then raised a hand to send a blue jade slip flying toward Han Li. Han Li caught the jade, and his brows furrowed slightly as he asked, "Is this the only condition I need to fulfill?" "Of course not, but if you can't even do this, then there's no need for you to be made aware of the rest of the conditions," Taoist Zai replied. "I see." Han Li nodded in response before adhering the jade slip to his own forehead, then instantly injected his spiritual sense into it. Moments later, Han Li withdrew his spiritual sense and removed the jade slip from his forehead with slightly furrowed brows. "These items are all very hard to find. Not only will I need to spend a lot of time to track them down, some luck will also be required. If luck isn't on my side, perhaps I'll never be able to track them down. Are you sure you require every single item on this list, fellow Taoist Zai?" "Not only do I need every single item, I can't make the slightest compromise even on the quantities required," Taoist Zai replied without any hesitation. "All right, it looks like this certainly won't be an easy task. I'll do my best," Han Li replied with a determined nod after a moment of contemplation. "I wish you luck, fellow Taoist Han. If that's all you wish to speak to me about, then I'll be taking my leave now," Taoist Zai said with an expressionless nod, then vanished into thin air again amid another flash of silver lightning. A peculiar look appeared on Han Li's face as he appraised the spot where Taoist Zai had just disappeared. It appeared that following his breakthrough to the Grand Ascension stage, Taoist Zai really had become a lot more sentient. It seemed that this faux immortal puppet had some secrets about it that were still unknown to him. After that, Han Li stowed the jade slip into his storage bracelet, then sat down with his legs crossed and began to meditate. Having completed all of his errands, he was finally able to consolidate his cultivation base in peace now. Thus, Han Li remained in the secret chamber for day after day, and a month flew by in the blink of an eye. On this day, Han Li suddenly opened his eyes, and two bursts of scintillating blue light flashed through his eyes, following which he immediately laid a hand onto his own head. A miniature humanoid figure emerged from the top of his own head amid a flash of golden light, then appeared in the air above him. This was a tiny azure-robed figure that was completely identical to Han Li in appearance. It had a small azure sword strapped to its back, and there was a thumb-sized golden beetle each clinging tightly to its two shoulders and chest like three shimmering golden pendants. As soon as the miniature humanoid figure appeared, it carefully examined itself, upon which an elated look appeared on its face. All of a sudden, Han Li stood up and extended a slight bow toward the miniature azure figure. Almost at the exact same moment, azure light flashed from Han Li's body, and another azure figure that was identical to Han Li in appearance emerged. This was none other than the spirit body being controlled by Quer, and the miniature azure figure turned toward the spirit body before instructing in Han Li's voice, "Look after my physical body. I want to try out the boundless spiritual journey technique now that my nascent soul is complete, and I'll return soon." Immediately thereafter, the miniature azure figure vanished on the spot in a flash. Down below, Han Li's physical body and the spirit body exchanged a brief glance, then both sat down in silence. Meanwhile, Han Li's nascent soul had already appeared hundreds of thousands of feet up in the air. A blanket of white clouds down below was only barely visible from this altitude, and gusts of fierce white winds were blowing toward the nascent soul, striking it with a stinging sensation on the skin of its face. However, not only was the nascent soul not alarmed by this, a smile appeared on its face as it murmured to itself, "These heavenly astral winds are truly as fearsome as the rumors proclaim them to be. If my nascent soul had come to this altitude prior to my breakthrough, these astral winds would have instantly torn it apart. Now, the astral winds are still rather uncomfortable to deal with, but I no longer have to fear them." As soon as its voice trailed off, the nascent soul immediately made a hand seal, and it vanished into the astral winds as a ball of golden light, then began to traverse through the winds at an incredible speed, rising up higher and higher. As the nascent soul ascended, the white winds sweeping through the air around it became more and more fearsome. Blades of wind were beginning to take shape within the ferocious winds, slicing a series of black spatial rifts into the air around the nascent soul. The nascent soul's pupils contracted slightly upon seeing this, but it still continued onward without displaying any intention of taking evasive measures. All of a sudden, a blade of wind flashed past the nascent soul, and a thin spatial rift appeared up ahead. The nascent soul seemed to be about to be drawn into the thin rift, but it abruptly twisted around and escaped from the spatial rift, then continued onward as if nothing had happened. These spatial rifts were lethal even to body integration cultivators, yet they were completely unable to harm Han Li's nascent soul. The nascent soul ascended another 100,000 feet in the blink of an eye, following which an indescribable roar suddenly rang out up above, accompanied by a burst of peculiar energy fluctuations. The nearby astral winds shuddered and completely shattered, following which a gargantuan creature tore through the space overhead, glowering intently at Han Li's nascent soul with a pair of massive pavilion-sized eyeballs. Chapter 2195, Fan Palsy and the Dao Fruit Convention. A chill immediately ran down the spine of Han Li's nascent soul upon seeing this, and it felt as if it were a mortal in the presence of a fearsome beast. The nascent soul immediately made a hand seal while letting loose a low cry, and the space within a radius of around half a kilometer tremored before everything suddenly became extremely sluggish, as if the air had congealed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the nascent soul vanished on the spot, then appeared several kilometers away amid a burst of spatial fluctuations before casting a wary gaze toward the gargantuan creature. From a distance, Han Li was finally able to see the true appearance of the massive creature, and he discovered it to be a mountainous, menacing head. The head had a pair of purple eyes and a huge golden horn. It was covered in faint silver scales and had 4 extremely long feelers extending from it. "It's a true dragon," Han Li exclaimed. In the next instant, the giant dragon's head whipped through the air, and the congealed space instantly returned to normal. The dragon's head was still appraising Han Li intently, and it suddenly said in a rumbling voice, "So you're a new Grand Ascension stage fellow Taoist. It looks like this is your first time going on a spiritual journey, right?" "This is indeed my first time on a spiritual journey. Are you a true dragon? Why have you appeared here?" the nascent soul asked in a cautious manner. Your nascent soul is far more consolidated than even most veteran Grand Ascension stage beings, yet there are still wisps of the world's origin chi escaping from it, clearly indicating that it's only recently reached completion. As for myself, I am indeed a true dragon, namely a clear purple dragon. I encountered a powerful foe not long ago, so I had no choice but to hide here for some time. The giant dragon's head chuckled in a truthful manner. Immediately thereafter, a gargantuan body the size of a mountain range forced its way out of the space behind the massive dragon's head. Sure enough, it was a colossal dragon covered in shimmering silver scales, but its body was riddled with wounds and missing large patches of scales, clearly looking very much worse for wear. Han Li faltered slightly upon seeing this, and he was forced to avert his gaze as scintillating light radiated from the scales of the silver dragon. All of a sudden, the gargantuan creature disappeared, and in its place stood a young man who appeared to be around 16 years of age, appraising Han Li with a faint smile. "Greetings, fellow Taoist. My name is Fan Paozi. May I know your name? I'm an acquaintance of fellow Taoist Mo of your human race." "Ah, so you're acquainted with brother Mo. I am Han Li, and I've heard much about the vastly renowned clear purple dragon. The enemy that you were referring to must be quite an extraordinary being as well to have inflicted these wounds upon you," Han Li's nascent soul replied. "Normally, I would have stayed far away from that seven-headed owl, but unfortunately, I came here for an extremely important item that I couldn't give up on, so I had no choice but to face it in battle. As a result, I sustained some rather severe injuries and lost some of my true scales, but I also managed to smash 2 of its 7 heads," the silver-robed young man said in a nonchalant manner. Han Li's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this. "I see, so you were battling a 7-headed owl. That's one of the rare true spirits known for its intense bloodlust, so it's quite extraordinary that you were able to defeat it, brother Fan." "I didn't exactly defeat it. It was just a lose-lose battle. The 7-headed owl was extremely ferocious, but wasn't very intelligent, so I was able to obtain the item I came for using a little trick. If it hadn't been unavoidable, there's no way I would have engaged such a bloodthirsty creature in battle," Fan Paozi said in a smug manner. "Then I'll have to congratulate you on obtaining your new treasure," Han Li's nascent soul said as it cupped its fist in a salute. "Thank you, brother Han. By the way, the 7-headed owl is still dwelling in a nearby realm. How about we join forces to kill it once and for all? Judging from how powerful your nascent soul is, you must be far more formidable than the average Grand Ascension stage being. If we combine our powers, there's a very good chance we'll succeed. If we do manage to kill it, I'll give you the inner core and consume its flesh and blood to help myself recover. What do you think?" Fan Paozi proposed. "Surely you jest, brother Fan. A rookie Grand Ascension stage being like me is far from ready to face such a fearsome true spirit." Han Li's nascent soul immediately refused with a shake of its head. Forlorn look appeared on Fan Paozi's face upon hearing this. "Oh, so you're not interested. That's quite a pity. This is a very rare opportunity. The inner core of the 7-headed owl is an extremely prized item. You can absorb the baleful chi within it to cultivate powerful abilities or use it as a material to refine a formidable treasure. Are you really not going to reconsider? Even if you don't have any use for the inner core, there will be many people keen to exchange valuable treasures for it. If you miss this brilliant opportunity, who knows when another one will come around. I wouldn't dare to irk such a formidable true spirit capable of wiping out entire nations and races. Please don't insist on this any further, fellow Taoist Fan. I'm not conceited enough to think that I stand a chance here. If you really want to avenge yourself, then perhaps you can recruit another fellow Taoist to accompany you." Han Li refused again in a euphemistic manner. "In that case, then I won't mention this matter any further. I do have some good friends that are no less powerful than myself, but none of them are in any of the nearby realms, so it won't be easy for me to track them down. As for other ordinary Grand Ascension stage beings, they most likely wouldn't stand much of a chance anyway. So be it, I don't want to face it again on my own, so I'll go somewhere else to rest and recuperate before returning to my own realm." Judging from the tone of Fan Paozi's voice, he had identified Han Li's true power and was regarding him as different from normal Grand Ascension stage beings. One had to realize that even though true spirits were technically supposed to be beings of the same caliber as Grand Ascension cultivators, even the most ordinary of true spirits could contend with several Grand Ascension stage beings at once. On top of that, some of the most powerful true spirits even possess powers comparable or superior to some true immortals. "Are you planning to leave right away, fellow Taoist fan?" Han Li asked as his expression changed slightly. I was recovering from my injuries in the nearby spatial rift, but now that you're aware of my presence, are you content to allow me to remain in the territory of your human race? Are you not concerned that the seven-headed owl will pursue me to this place and bring disaster to your race?" Fan Paozi chuckled. An awkward look appeared on Han Li's face upon hearing this, but his expression then quickly returned to normal as he cupped his fist in a salute. "If that seven-headed owl really does come here, then our human race will be in great peril, so I won't keep you any longer." Fan Paozi smiled and replied, "Even though this is only our first meeting, I feel like we have a great deal of affinity with one another, so I have a gift for you here." Immediately thereafter, he suddenly opened his mouth to release a ball of silver light that flew directly toward Han Li. Han Li faltered slightly upon seeing this, then made a grabbing motion to draw a flat disc into his own grasp. He looked down at the object to find that it was a shimmering silver scale, and his heart stirred slightly as he asked, "What is this, fellow Taoist fan?" "Grand Elder Jin Long of our True Dragon race will be holding a Tao Fruit Convention on our True Dragon Island in a few centuries, and all true spirits, as well as some select Grand Ascension stage beings, will be eligible to attend the convention. There are some true dragons such as myself who have the right to extend invitations to several people, and that scale acts as the invitation letter to the event. Shortly before the convention is held, the exact time and location will be displayed on the scale, and you can attend if you have the time to do so," Fan Paozi explained with a smile. Han Li's nascent soul swept its spiritual sense over the scale, and after ascertaining that there were no issues with it, the nascent soul replied, "The Tao Fruit Convention, eh? Thank you for your kind invitation, brother Fan." Immediately thereafter, the silver scale vanished as a ball of silver light from Han Li's grasp. A hint of amusement flashed through Fan Paozi's eyes at the sight of how carefully Han Li was treating the scale, and he continued, "I hope to see you again on True Dragon Island. By the way, even though you're a Grand Ascension stage being and can release your nascent soul out of your body, it would be best not to display this ability in front of some powerful beings unless it's absolutely unavoidable. According to my knowledge, many true spirits view Grand Ascension stage nascent souls as delicacies, and to them, the more consolidated a nascent soul is, the more delicious they'll be, haha." After that, Fan Paozi burst into laughter and reverted back to his giant true dragon form amid a flash of silver light, then disappeared into thin air with another flash of silver radiance. Chapter 2196, Return. Han Li's expression eased slightly at the sight of Fan Paozi's departure, but a hint of concern then appeared in his eyes as he considered what Fan Paozi had just said. After a short while, Han Li's nascent soul descended from above as a streak of azure light. Not long after that, spatial fluctuations erupted within the secret chamber of his cave abode, and the nascent soul re-emerged. Han Li's physical body and the spirit body both stood up upon seeing this, and at the same time, Han Li's physical body closed its eyes, and his nascent soul quickly vanished into the head of the body as a streak of azure light. All of a sudden, purplish golden light flashed erratically from Han Li's body, and a series of silver spirit patterns appeared on his skin. Han Li then reopened his eyes, upon which the spirit body immediately approached him before vanishing into his body as a streak of azure light. Han Li stood still on the spot, and only after a long while did he gently flex his neck from side to side as he murmured to himself, "As expected, my nascent soul really has become more resolute than before. It seems that not only can spiritual travel be used in battle against enemies, it can also be directly used for cultivation." After that, Han Li sat back down onto the ground, then flipped a hand over to produce the silver scale again. Han Li gently stroked the scale with his finger for a moment, and a contemplative look appeared on his face. In the past, he had read about the true Dragon Island that Fan Paozi had just spoken of, and apparently, the island was very strange in that it existed in a unique space that was situated in several realms at once. There were all types of living beings on the island, most of which were worms, but there were also over 10 true spirits on the island, most of which were true dragons, which was why it was known as True Dragon Island. However, this was the first time he had heard about this Dao fruit convention. He would have to inquire Mo Giantly and some others about this to see if they knew any details about the event before deciding whether he was going to attend. Having made up his mind, Han Li exhaled, and the silver spirit patterns on his body instantly formed dozens of miniature formations on his skin. Immediately thereafter, bursts of white mist surged out of the formations in a frenzy, inundating Han Li's entire body. Moments later, the entire secret chamber was filled with this white mist, and a string of cracks and pops rang out incessantly from within it. Thus, Han Li continued to cultivate in his secret chamber. 2 months later, the door of the secret chamber was opened once again amid a dull thump, and Han Li emerged from within with a calm expression. Half a day later, spiritual light suddenly flashed on the peak of the mountain in which Han Li's cave abode was situated, and 2 dazzling streaks of light departed into the distance. Shortly thereafter, a group of around a dozen streaks of light also emerged from the mountain before flying away in another direction. Meanwhile, Taoist Zai, Silvermoon, and Zhu Gyur had already gathered before Han Li in the cave abode. "Let's go to Deep Heaven City. There are some disciples who I haven't seen in a long time, and I want to check on how they're doing," Han Li said. No one had any objections to this, and Han Li swept a sleeve through the air, releasing a burst of golden light that swept up everyone in the room, following which all of them instantly vanished on the spot. In the next instant, spatial fluctuations erupted atop the mountain peak, and Han Li's group re-emerged. Han Li then immediately raised a hand to release a ball of azure light, which transformed into an azure jade arc that was over 100 feet in length. Han Li and the others flew onto the arc, which immediately sped away as a ball of azure light. The Deep Heaven City was still standing at the entrance to the primordial world, and its massive city walls had already been repaired from the damage inflicted upon it by the devilish army. Groups of armored patrolling warriors were roaming over the city walls, and even though the devilish tribulation had already passed, the guards of Deep Heaven City were still on high alert. Within a giant stone pagoda at the center of Deep Heaven City, 8 human and demon body integration stage elders were gathered and discussing something. Among the outermost 108 giant restrictions of the city, 97 of them were completely repaired as of 2 days ago. As for the remaining restrictions, the materials required to repair them are quite rare, and we haven't been able to gather all of them, so they can't be repaired for now. Up to this point, only around 20% of the puppets under the city have been repaired, and all of the ones that have been adjudged to be beyond repair have been refined into materials. The 100,000 new puppets that we commissioned the Hidden Fortune Pavilion to craft have already arrived a month ago, and the 3,080 cloud pavilions of the city have already been fully repaired. A silver-haired elderly man was currently in the process of delivering a report to everyone else. Even though Deep Heaven City had managed to withstand the invasion of the devilish army, the damage and losses sustained by the city had been enormous. Even after so many years, the city still hadn't recovered to its former state prior to the devilish tribulation, and this was very concerning to the panel of elders. Following the devilish tribulation, the relationship between the human and demon races and the neighboring races had become rather tense. In particular, the Wood tribe had already been split up and become subsidiaries to the other races, and every race was eagerly eyeing the former territory of the Wood tribe. However, no one dared to immediately take over this territory, in fear of being targeted by the other races. Thus, the nearby races had begun sending people to the border they shared with the Wood tribe territory in order to slowly encroach upon this area. Under these circumstances, it wouldn't be a surprise at all to see another war break out between the human and demon races against the other neighboring races. If that were to happen, Deep Heaven City would most likely be the site where the conflict would take place, so it was naturally imperative to repair all of the city's defenses. After a long while, the silver-haired elderly man finally completed his report, and during this process, all of the other elders had listened carefully, occasionally raising a question or two, all of which were patiently answered by the elderly man. "Our city's defenses are still rather weak at the moment, but everything will recover within 20 years at most. When that time comes, we'll have nothing to fear even if we have to battle the other neighboring races again. Brother Gu, let's discuss the other matters next," a golden-robed elderly monk suddenly said with a smile. The monk was none other than Buddhist monk Jin Yue, while the silver-haired elderly man was naturally Elder Gu of Deep Heaven City. Aside from the progression in the city's repairs, I gathered all of you here today to discuss several other important matters as well, one of which will involve the Holy Island envoys, who will be arriving at our city soon, Elder Gu sighed. What? So the Holy Island really has sent people to our city. Looks like they're determined to get their hands on that person. A stir immediately ran through the group of body integration stage elders upon hearing this. What do we do? The person the Holy Island wants is a disciple of that man. So be it, seeing as the Holy Island has sent envoys to our city, we'll just have to hand over that man's disciple. After all, even our Deep Heaven City won't be able to directly oppose the Holy Island, a golden-faced burly man said with furrowed brows. HMPH, you sure make it sound simple. Have you forgotten that man's powers and the contributions he made to our city? If we hand over his disciple, who's going to deal with him once he returns? Are you going to volunteer? A purple-haired woman countered in a cold voice. We've already turned down the Holy Island on several occasions with different excuses. If we continue to refuse to cooperate, the Holy Island envoys will most likely cause trouble directly for our panel of elders. That person is indeed more powerful than all of us, but it's not like he'd dare to oppose the Holy Island, so I still think we should hand over his disciple, the golden-faced man insisted with a solemn expression. The Holy Island is not an entity that we can mess with, but have you forgotten that that man is currently attempting a grand ascension stage breakthrough? If he succeeds and returns, only to find that we've handed over his disciple, have you considered what would befall our city? A silver-masked woman asked in a cold voice. Haha, I know that you share some ties with that man, Fairy Silver Light, but this is a matter that concerns our entire city, so it's best not to let individual ties cloud your judgment. Besides, countless fellow Taoists from our human and demon races have attempted grand ascension stage breakthroughs in the past, but how many of them have succeeded? The golden-faced man replied with a shake of his head. Everyone else exchanged hesitant glances upon hearing this, but the silver-masked woman continued in a cold voice. Even if the chances of making a grand ascension stage breakthrough are very slim, have you forgotten about those rumors? The golden-faced man's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, but he didn't immediately offer a response. Are you referring to the rumor that fellow Taoist Han is being held in high regard by both Senior Ao Zio and Senior Mo Giantly? Buddhist monk Jin Yue asked. Chapter 2197, Holy Island Envoys. The person being discussed by the elders was none other than Han Li, and those who were supporting handing over Han Li's disciple immediately fell silent upon hearing what Buddhist monk Jin Yue had just said. As the only two Grand Ascension stage beings in the two races, Ao Zio and Mo Jianli's influence outstripped even that of the Holy Island. If it weren't for the fact that a rule had been established in ancient times, stating that Grand Ascension stage beings were prohibited from interfering with the general affairs of the Holy Island, no one would bat an eyelid even if Mo Jianli and Ao Zio were to take over control of the Holy Island. Now that these two Grand Ascension stage beings had been introduced into the conversation, no one dared to express any opinions, and the entire hall suddenly fell completely silent. I have verified this rumor in person. Apparently, our two seniors believe that fellow Taoist Han is the one who's most likely to progress to the Grand Ascension stage among our two races, which is why they hold him in such high regard. On top of that, Fairy Ling Long, who is a direct lineal descendant of Senior Ao Zio, is currently in seclusion with fellow Taoist Han for some reason. If we were to irk fellow Taoist Han, the outcome may not be much better for us than opposing the Holy Island, Buddhist monk Jin Yue said in a grim voice. Different expressions appeared on everyone's faces upon hearing this, and it was clear that they weren't going to be reaching a consensus anytime soon. Not necessarily. The Holy Island is asking for that disciple of fellow Taoist hands for the future of our two races. According to the Holy Island, fellow Taoist Du Yu, who has been in seclusion on the Holy Island for over 10,000 years, has come out of seclusion as a late body integration cultivator, and he's also cultivated the peerless Buddhist ability, the evil vanquishing arts, to the paramount level. With his powers and the supplementary pills and treasures provided by the Holy Island, there's a roughly 20% chance that he'll be able to break through the Grand Ascension stage bottleneck. It's just that they don't have any potent measures against the true lightning tribulation, and the people on the Holy Island were somehow made aware of the fact that fellow Taoist Han's disciple possesses the extremely rare recessive lightning spiritual root, which can help one withstand lightning tribulations. As such, They're determined to bring him to the island to assist fellow Taoist Du Yu in transcending his true lightning tribulation. If we can add a grand ascension stage being to our two races for doing this, I'm sure Senior Mo Jianli and Senior Ao Zio will be extremely pleased, and fellow Taoist Han wouldn't be able to blame us, either, a black-robed man said in an emotionless manner. You're right, Brother Yan. The Holy Island is only asking fellow Taoist Han's disciple to help fellow Taoist Du Yu transcend his true lightning tribulation. It's not set in stone that something bad will happen to him. In fact, this may be an opportunity for him, the golden-faced man chimed in agreement. HMPH, I wish I had half your optimism. Fellow Taoist Han's disciple has only just reached the deity transformation stage. Even though he possesses a recessive lightning spiritual root, how will he be able to resist the true lightning tribulation? They'll most likely force him to stimulate his latent potential and burn through his lifespan to forcibly enhance his own cultivation base. Even if he manages to survive the true lightning tribulation, he'll definitely be completely disabled. Do you think fellow Taoist Han will be willing to just let things slide then? Fairy Silver Light countered with a hint of fury in her voice. If we can sacrifice a deity transformation cultivator for a grand ascension cultivator, then that is a fantastic exchange for the greater good of our two races, the black-robed man said as his eyes narrowed slightly. If fellow Taoist Han doesn't manage to become a grand ascension cultivator, then we can just ask the Holy Island to forcibly keep him in check. But what if he succeeds in his breakthrough? How will we face him then? When that time comes, perhaps even the Holy Island will ask us to sacrifice ourselves in order to assuage fellow Taoist Han's fury. Our panel of elders has promised fellow Taoist Han that we would look after his disciples in his absence, no matter what happens. Do you really think we can just detach ourselves from this? The purple-haired woman said in a cold voice. The black-robed man's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, and he didn't offer any response. Thus, the entire hall fell silent again, and everyone was quickly mulling over the pros and cons of the situation. What do you think, Brother Gu? Buddhist monk Jin Yue sighed as he turned toward the silver-haired elderly man. My opinion doesn't matter here. This is an extremely troublesome matter, and I don't think we're equipped to make a conclusive decision here, Elder Gu replied with a wry smile. We have to make a decision that will appease both sides. We can't directly oppose the orders of the Holy Island, but fellow Taoist Han is the most powerful body integration stage being among our two races, so we can't irk him either. On top of that, fellow Taoist Han is not someone who's easy to fool, so I'd suggest we don't fabricate any excuses or try to play any little tricks on him. I don't want to see a repeat of what happened to fellow Taoist Azure Dragon all those years ago, Buddhist monk Jin Yue said with a concerned expression. Everyone's heart jolted slightly upon hearing the mention of Master Azure Dragon. No one had witnessed the fall of Master Azure Dragon in person, but everyone knew that Han Li was most likely the culprit. Han Li had killed a body integration cultivator like Master Azure Dragon without any hesitation for the sake of his so-called junior martial sister, who knew if he would do the same to the members of the panel of elders. If they were to irk Han Li, they could be making an enemy for themselves who could easily take their lives at any moment. Thus, even though the Holy Island was an almighty entity, they couldn't make a decision on who to side with. Let's set this matter aside for now. This issue concerns our entire panel of elders, and we definitely won't be able to arrive at a conclusion on our own. The Holy Island envoys will take some time to arrive at our city, so why don't we discuss this when we've gathered all of the other elders? Of course, during this time, fellow Taoist Han's disciples will be temporarily prohibited from leaving Deep Heaven City. Also, please try to contact Senior Ao Zio and Senior Mo Jianli again, Fairy Silver Light. If either of them can make a decision for us, then we'll be out of this predicament. Fellow Taoist Yan, I'll entrust the duty of corresponding with the Holy Island to you. Find out who the Holy Island envoys will be, and whether there's a chance they can rescind their order. As long as the Holy Island is willing to give up on fellow Taoist Han's disciple, we can accept any other condition of theirs as long as it's within reason, Elder Gu finally decided after a long pause. Ever since the truce agreement was made with the Elder Devil race, Senior Ao Zio and Senior Mo Jianli have mysteriously disappeared. Even their disciples have been unable to contact them, so I can only do my best, Fairy Silver Light replied in an unconfident manner. I have several good friends on the Holy Island, so it'll be easy for me to find out some information, but I'm guessing that it'll be next to impossible to convince the Holy Island to rescind its order, The black-robed man sighed. I'm naturally aware that both of these tasks are very difficult, but we have to at least make an attempt. If we manage to succeed in either of these endeavors, then the issue will be completely resolved, Elder Gu said. The black-robed man and Fairy Silverlight could only nod in response. Thus, the issue regarding the Holy Island and Han Li was set aside for now, and the elders began discussing the extermination of the remnant devilish beings near Deep Heaven City. 3 months later, over 100 armored guards were standing on either side of Deep Heaven City's giant city gate. On top of that, there were also several people in different colored attire standing atop the city wall, peering into the distant sky. At the center of the group were Elder Gu and Buddhist monk Jin Yue, and they were accompanied by several other elders, including Elder Yan and Fairy Silver Light. All of them were waiting atop the city wall in silence, as if they were waiting for someone. However, a long time passed, and there was still no sign of anyone arriving. Elder Gu looked up at the sun in the sky, and his brows finally furrowed slightly as he asked, Elder Yan, didn't you say that the Holy Island envoys will arrive at noon sharp? Has there been a miscommunication? I wouldn't make a mistake on such a simple matter, Brother Gu. Perhaps the Holy Island envoys were unexpectedly delayed for some reason, the black-robed man replied. What could they possibly have been delayed by? There are 3 Holy Island envoys in total, yet even you were unable to find out any of their identities. It looks like the Holy Island has already run out of patience with us. Elder Gu sighed with a slight shake of his head. Elder Yan offered no response to this, but Buddhist monk Jin Yue suddenly said, We've discussed this issue on several occasions, but have still been unable to arrive at a consensus. As things are now, we can only go with the flow and make decisions on the fly. Wry smiles appeared on the faces of all of the elders upon hearing this. All of a sudden, Fairy Silver Light exclaimed, They're here. Everyone's hearts stirred upon hearing this, and they hurriedly looked up into the distant sky again. Azure light flashed in the distance, and a streak of azure light approached at an incredible speed, reaching the city gate in just a few flashes. The azure light then abruptly faded, and an azure jade arc appeared. At the front of the arc stood an azure-robed young man, and a hint of surprise flashed through his eyes at the sight of the elders down below, but he immediately cupped his fist in a smiling salute. Brother Gu, Master Jin, why are you all here? Did you know that I was going to return to the city today? All of the elders were immediately flabbergasted upon ascertaining who the young man was. Chapter 2198, Do You? The young man was naturally none other than Han Li, who had finally arrived back at Deep Heaven City after traveling for close to half a year. At this moment, a man and 2 women also emerged from the cabin of the Ark. They were Silvermoon, Taoist Zai, and Zhu Gyur. A hint of surprise also flashed through Silvermoon's eyes at the sight of the elders on the city wall. Elder Gu finally returned to his senses, and even though he was feeling very apprehensive internally, he still put on a smile and returned Han Li's salute. It's fantastic news for our city that you've returned, Brother Han, but we were actually unaware of your return and are waiting for someone else. Otherwise, we definitely would have been better prepared to welcome you. He swept his spiritual sense toward Han Li as he spoke, only to discover that he was completely unable to ascertain Han Li's cultivation base. All he could sense was that Han Li's aura had become even more unfathomable, and his heart immediately jolted upon sensing this. Even though he didn't know the outcome of Han Li's breakthrough attempt, it was clear that he had become significantly more powerful nonetheless. All of the other elders also attempted to detect Han Li's cultivation base, but with their spiritual sense, there was obviously no way they would be able to glean anything unless Han Li explicitly released his Grand Ascension stage spiritual pressure. Thus, everyone was left feeling quite uneasy, and the smiles they put on were rather forced. Han Li could see how unnatural everyone's expressions were, and his heart stirred slightly, but his own expression remained unchanged as he said, I see. It must be quite an important guest for all of you to be gathered here and welcome. Could it be one of Senior Mo Jianli or Senior Ao Zio? I'm afraid not. It's been a while since we've lost contact with those 2 seniors, Elder Gu said in a slightly hesitant voice as his smile faded slightly. Even with his wealth of experience, he was unsure of whether he should disclose the matter about the Holy Island envoys. Fortunately for him, there was no need for him to mull over this issue any longer as right at this moment. A vast expanse of 5-colored light came surging forth from the distance. It appeared to be moving quite slowly, but it arrived above the city in just a few flashes, revealing a pristine white giant ark that was around 5 times larger than Han Li's Jade ark. Han Li faltered slightly upon seeing this, then cast his gaze toward the giant ark to find that there were around a dozen people standing on it, and the trio at the forefront possessed auras far superior to those of the people behind them. The trio was comprised of a yellow-haired and green-eyed man who appeared to be in his 30s, a graceful and refined white-robed young man, and a hideous dark-skinned woman. Han Li swept his spiritual sense over the trio, and immediately detected that the yellow-haired man and dark-skinned woman were both at the mid-body integration stage, while the white-robed young man was at the pinnacle of the late-body integration stage, seemingly ready to commence a grand ascension stage breakthrough at any moment. However, what drew Han Li's attention the most was the massive, holy character engraved upon the surface of the giant white ark. Han Li instantly recognized this to be the symbol of the Holy Island, and it became clear to him why so many elders of the city had gathered to welcome these guests. However, it was quite an uncommon occurrence for the Holy Island to send envoys to Deep Heaven City, and the expressions that the elders of the city had displayed earlier were quite suspicious. Could it be that the arrival of these Holy Island envoys had something to do with him? Within mere moments, Han Li had roughly deduced the nature of the situation. However, he displayed no reaction to this and merely looked on in silence. At the sight of the Holy Island envoys' arrival, all of the elders present exchanged a wry smile. They didn't need to ponder what they had to tell Han Li anymore. Both sides had arrived at the city at the same time. However, what was quite alarming to Elder Gu was that aside from the white-robed young man, the other two envoys were also very powerful and were quite renowned even on the Holy Island. As for the white-robed young man himself, this was the first time they had met him, but they were all struck by a sense of powerlessness in his presence, and that made Elder Gu even more uneasy. Just as Elder Gu was mulling over the situation, Elder Yan suddenly transmitted his voice to him. "I think this is a good thing, Brother Gu. We'll get fellow Taoist Han to communicate with the Holy Island envoys in person, and even if they end up taking his disciple in the end, he won't be able to blame us." Elder Gu's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, and he stole a glance at Han Li, to find that Han Li was currently appraising him with a hint of a smile on his face. His heart immediately jolted at the sight of this, and he merely nodded in a seemingly casual manner instead of transmitting his voice in response. At this moment, Buddhist monk Jin Yue extended a salute toward the 3 body integration cultivators on the giant ark and said, "Greetings, envoys of the Holy Island. My name is Jin Yue." "Ah, so you're the vastly renowned Buddhist monk Jin Yue. I am Du Yu, and it's an honor for me to make your acquaintance," the white-robed young man said with a smile. The other envoys remained silent, and it was clear that the white-robed young man was their leader. Elder Gu's expression changed drastically upon hearing this. "Du Yu, are you the fellow Taoist who's planning to attempt a grand ascension stage breakthrough on the Holy Island?" Buddhist monk Jin Yue was also quite surprised to hear this. "You must be fellow Taoist Gu, right? I have only recently emerged from seclusion on the Holy Island, and I do indeed plan to attempt a breakthrough soon. However, I'll require your city's cooperation for this objective," Du Yu said in a modest manner. Elder Gu's lips twitched slightly upon hearing this, and he took another quick glance at Han Li as countless thoughts flashed rapidly through his mind. "Our city will be sure to cooperate with the Holy Island to the best of its abilities, but this is not a good place to talk. Let's return to the city first. After you, Brother Han, fellow Taoist Du." "Brother Han, could it be that this fellow Taoist is?" Du Yu's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, and he immediately cast his gaze toward Han Li. Du Yu had already noticed Han Li, and he could sense an extremely unsettling hint of pressure emanating from Han Li's body. On top of that, his inability to glean Han Li's cultivation base with his spiritual sense further exacerbated his uneasiness, and even though he had always held himself in high regard, he was still rather intimidated in Han Li's presence. He had heard all of the rumors surrounding Han Li as soon as he had come out of seclusion, and after learning that Han Li's disciple could help him nullify some of the power of his true lightning tribulation, he conducted even more research into Han Li. As a result, he learned about how Han Li had managed to progress from the deity transformation stage to the late body integration stage in less than 2,000 years, as well as all of the miraculous victories that he had scored against all types of formidable enemies. There were even rumors that not only had Han Li killed an astonishing number of devilish lords during the devilish tribulation, he seemed to have ventured deep into the elder devil realm and returned safely not long ago. If all of this were true, then Han Li was simply far too fearsome to fathom. Du Yu had always thought that his aptitude was inferior to no one in the history of the human race, but he had to concede that there was no way he could match Han Li's extraordinary feats. However, it was rumored that Han Li had left Deep Heaven City to prepare for a Grand Ascension stage breakthrough, so why was he suddenly back? Could it be that he had received some news that his disciple was being targeted? If that were the case, then the situation could become very troublesome. Despite the shock and wariness in Du Yu's heart, he still cupped his fist toward Han Li in a polite salute. "I've heard much about your exploits, Brother Han. Seeing as you're here as well, we'll have to discuss my objective for coming here." "You wish to discuss your objective with me? It looks like there really is something going on. Brother Gu hasn't had a chance to disclose the situation to me yet, so I'll be hearing it firsthand from you, fellow Taoist Du," Han Li replied as his eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course, let's enter the city now," Buddhist monk Jin Yue said in a slightly awkward manner. Shortly thereafter, the elders, Han Li, and the Holy Island envoys arrived in a hall on the top floor of a massive stone pagoda. Then each took a seat. A group of female servants immediately flocked into the room at Elder Gu's behest, carrying cups of spirit tea, as well as platters of spirit fruits and spirit wine that they placed down onto everyone's tables. Han Li took a customary sip of spirit tea before setting the teacup down, then asked, "Can you tell me why the Holy Island has sent envoys to our city now, Brother Gu? Could it be that this has something to do with me?" Chapter 2199, Turning on the Envoys. At Han Li's current level of power, there was virtually no issue in the human race that could stump him, so he wasn't overly concerned about the situation. "I'd be happy to explain everything to you, Brother Han. Fellow Taoist Han has just returned to the city, so you wouldn't mind if I filled him in on the recent state of affairs, would you? After all, this matter concerns his disciple," Elder Gu asked with a serious expression. "My disciple? Of course not." Han Li faltered slightly upon hearing this, while Du Yu immediately agreed to the request. "Indeed, this issue concerns one of your disciples, Brother Han. Am I correct in stating that you have a disciple who possesses a recessive lightning spiritual root, Brother Han?" Elder Gu asked. "You must be referring to Hai Yueshan. He does indeed possess a recessive lightning spiritual root, but I don't recall ever telling anyone about this. How do all of you know about this?" Han Li asked as his expression changed slightly. "Apparently, your disciple unintentionally revealed this on his own during a drunk ramble at a gathering," Buddhist monk Jin Yue explained. "I see. This disciple of mine has always been quite scatterbrained, so I'm not surprised to hear that. Go on, Brother Gu," Han Li sighed in a resigned manner. Elder Gu offered a rather awkward smile before continuing. "I'm sure you're even more aware of the special properties of a recessive lightning spiritual root than we are, fellow Taoist Han. The elders of the Holy Island were informed of this matter, so they issued an invitation to your disciple not long ago to borrow the power of his recessive lightning spiritual root. I'll get fellow Taoist Du Yu to disclose the rest of the situation to you," Elder Gu said, deferring to Du Yu to continue the explanation. All of the other elders present were thoroughly impressed by Elder Gu's wily deflection. If he were to tell Han Li everything in the stead of the Holy Island envoys, it wouldn't be right of them to express any displeasure here, but they definitely wouldn't be pleased, nonetheless. Thus, Elder Gu was essentially doing Du Yu a favor by allowing him to elaborate on the situation. And now that the negotiation was going to take place between Han Li and Du Yu, the panel of elders wouldn't incur the wrath of the Holy Island nor Han Li regardless of the final outcome. Du Yu immediately saw through Elder Gu's intentions, and he nodded as he said, "In that case, allow me to explain the situation. The recessive lightning spiritual root possessed by Brother Han's disciple is extremely important to both our human and demon races. Aside from Senior Mo Jianli and Senior Ao Zio, there are no other Grand Ascension stage being among our two races, and both of them are at quite an advanced age, so we won't be able to rely on them for much longer." Du Yu paused momentarily here, and solemn looks appeared on everyone's face upon hearing this. Without a Grand Ascension stage being to act as a guiding force, the fate of our two races will immediately fall into dire straits. As such, the Holy Island has been doing its best to create another Grand Ascension stage being for our two races. If another Grand Ascension cultivator could arise among our ranks, We still won't be able to compare with the superpower races of the spirit realm, but the safety of our two races will be guaranteed for tens of thousands of years. As such, the elders of the Holy Island have agreed to pool together all of the island's resources to assist the late body integration stage beings on the island in their breakthrough attempts. As such, we are inviting your disciple to the island for the greater good. I hope you can see the bigger picture and allow your disciple to come with us to the Holy Island, Brother Han. It was clear that Du Yu had already recognized Han Li to be the biggest obstacle that stood before him, so he was speaking directly to Han Li and completely disregarding the elders of Deep Heaven City. So what you're saying is that the Holy Island sent 3 envoys to the city for a disciple of mine. Han Li summarized as a cold look appeared on his face, and the displeasure in his voice was very apparent. Du Yu's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this, but he displayed no intention of backing down. I can assure you that no mortal peril will befall your disciple on the Holy Island, and our Holy Island will be sure to reward him handsomely for his efforts. This disciple of mine has only been with me for a short time, and his cultivation base isn't all that advanced. If he were to use his recessive lightning spiritual root to nullify a grand ascension stage true lightning tribulation, he would at least have to progress to the spatial tempering stage to be of any use at all. I know of around 7 methods that can forcibly enhance one's cultivation base to that extent, and all of them require the overexertion of one's latent potential and lifespan. Even if my disciple doesn't perish during the tribulation, he won't be able to benefit from the rewards given to him by the Holy Island anyway. Han Li's expression darkened even further as he spoke, and a hint of mockery had crept into his voice. Your disciple will indeed be incurring a certain level of risk here, but the prosperity of our two races hinges on this matter. I'm sure I don't need to educate you on which is more important between a single person and 2 entire races, fellow Taoist Han. The yellow-haired man seated beside Du Yu interjected. I'm of course well aware of that, but I want to know if my disciple's inclusion will guarantee that a new Grand Ascension stage being will arise from the Holy Island. If you can swear that on your inner demons, then I'd be happy to let him go with you. Otherwise, if the chances of success are very slim, then why should my disciple sacrifice himself for nothing? Do you think I'm someone that you can walk all over without repercussions? Han Li had done away with all semblance of pleasantries at this point. The 3 Holy Island envoys' expressions all became quite strained upon hearing this, while the elders of the city exchanged a few glances before choosing to continue to remain silent. It was clear that the panel of elders had decided that they were going to take no further part in this issue. Brother Han, I think that if your disciple can increase the chances of a new Grand Ascension stage being arising among our 2 races even by just a sliver, then it's not a sacrifice for nothing. You're not planning to completely disregard the orders of the Holy Island and the entirety of our 2 races, are you? If so, then you might have to answer to the elders of our Holy Island. The hideous woman accompanying Du Yu threatened. Oh, is that supposed to be a threat? You 3 are constantly going on about the Holy Island and our 2 races. Do you really think the 3 of you can represent our 2 races? I haven't been cultivating for all that long, but if you think you can fool me with such broad and abstract terms, then you're dead wrong. If I hand over my disciple to you like this, I'll be viewed by everyone as a master who can't even protect his own disciples, Han Li countered in a frosty voice. The hideous woman immediately flared up with rage upon hearing this, but Han Li raised a hand to cut off what she was about to say, and continued. I can tell you now that unless your Holy Island is 100% confident that sacrificing my disciple will produce a Grand Ascension state, being for our 2 races, then I won't let him go with you. Is the Grand Ascension stage bottleneck a joke to you, fellow Taoist Han? If it were that easy to produce Grand Ascension stage beings, then there would be far more of them in our 2 races than there currently are. You're being extremely unreasonable here, Brother Han. Du Yu had also run out of patience at this point. You want me to sacrifice my disciple for nothing, yet you're calling me unreasonable. I can see that you're quite a powerful cultivator, fellow Taoist Du. You must be one of the candidates selected by the Holy Island for a Grand Ascension stage breakthrough, right? Han Li asked with a cold smile. I am indeed one of the chosen candidates. Do you think I'm not up to standard, fellow Taoist Han? Du Yu asked as a cold look flashed through his eyes. That's not for me to decide. However, seeing as you're doing everything for the greater good, would I be correct to assume that you'd be willing to offer all of your treasures and pills to help me when I attempt my Grand Ascension stage breakthrough? If you can truthfully say that you'd be willing to do that, then I have nothing to say, Han Li replied in an expressionless manner. This question clearly caught Du Yu off guard, and he faltered momentarily before replying in an awkward manner. I'm afraid that I can't do that, fellow Taoist Han. The pills and treasures provided to me for my breakthrough attempt were all prepared by the Holy Island, so I don't have the right to give them to anyone else. That's quite a pity. Seeing as you're not willing to make sacrifices for the so-called greater good, then don't even think about sacrificing my disciple. If that's all you want to discuss with me, then you can return to the Holy Island now, Hanley said with a mocking expression as he gave a dismissive wave of his hand. The expressions on the faces of the three envoys darkened even further upon hearing this. Brother Gu, Master Jin Yue, both of you are on friendly terms with fellow Taoist Han. Would you be able to persuade him? If I don't return to the Holy Island with fellow Taoist Han's disciple, neither your city nor I would be able to answer to the elders, Du Yu said in a meaningful voice. Elder Gu cursed Du Yu internally for involving him in this matter again, and after a long hesitation, he finally said with a wry smile, "It's not really my place to be interfering with this matter. How about both sides comprise slightly?" Chapter 2200, Bullying the Weak. What do you mean by that, fellow Taoist Gu? Du Yu asked in a perplexed manner. Neither of you is willing to comply with the other, so why don't you each compromise a little? Seeing as fellow Taoist Du is determined to take Brother Han's disciple back to the Holy Island, then why don't you accompany them as well, Brother Han? If you feel that they're doing anything inappropriate, then you can immediately intervene. With your powers and reputation, I'm sure the elders of the Holy Island would be inclined to heed your advice, Brother Han, Elder Gu proposed in a cautious manner. That's a good idea. You can accompany us to the Holy Island if you wish to do so, fellow Taoist Han. Du Yu agreed after a brief moment of contemplation. There's no need for that. Seeing as Brother Gu would like me to make a compromise, then that's what I'll do. If one of you three envoys can withstand a single attack from me, then I'll let you take my disciple. If not, he. Han Li chuckled coldly as his eyes narrowed slightly. What? How dare you belittle us like this, fellow Taoist Han? Even with Du Yu's steadfast nature, he couldn't help but flare up with fury. The hideous woman and yellow-haired man were also enraged to hear this. Do you not trust me? Would you like me to swear an inner demon vow as well? Han Li asked. Du Yu's rage quickly subsided, and he immediately began to consider exactly what Han Li was intending to do here. There's no need for that. I'm sure you're a man of your word, fellow Taoist Han. He certainly didn't believe that Han Li was doing this as a compromise, but he was even more unconvinced that the three of them wouldn't even be able to withstand a single attack from Han Li. The elders of Deep Heaven City also exchanged a few bewildered glances upon hearing this. They were aware that Han Li was virtually the most powerful being in the entire spirit realm below the Grand Ascension stage, but they also didn't believe that Du Yu's trio wouldn't even be able to withstand a single attack from him. Elder Gu and Buddhist monk Jin Yue quickly exchanged a glance, and just as the former was about to say something, Fairy Silver Light suddenly transmitted her voice to them. Elder Gu's expression changed slightly upon hearing what she had to say, and he cast a quick glance towards Silvermoon, who was sitting beside Han Li, and decided to remain silent in the end. Meanwhile, Du Yu was appraising Han Li with a dark expression, and only after a long while did he finally reply, "Seeing as you insist on settling this with violence, then I'll be one to face your attack. I want to see just how you plan to defeat me with just a single attack." After discovering that the elders of Deep Heaven City were determined to adopt a neutral stance, Du Yu decided to accept Han Li's proposal in the end. Even though he was rather suspicious of Han Li's conceited display, he was even more confident in his own powers. With the powerful Buddhist cultivation art that he had mastered and the treasures in his possession, he was confident that he would be able to withstand an attack from a cultivator of the same caliber. The yellow-haired man and hideous woman were clearly also very confident in Du Yu's powers, and they offered no objections to this, but they were displaying even greater animosity toward Han Li. As Holy Island envoys, they were always treated with respect everywhere they went. Occasionally, they would encounter some rather cold and aloof body integration cultivators, but no one had ever been as openly hostile as Han Li had been toward them. Upon receiving agreement from Du Yu, Han Li immediately burst into laughter. "You're a straightforward man, fellow Taoist Du. I'll be waiting for you in the sparring hall on the lower level." As soon as his voice trailed off, Han Li stood up, then vanished into thin air amid a burst of spatial fluctuations, leaving only his laughter still resounding throughout the hall. Han Li's display of nonchalance and spatial abilities immediately brought a hint of wariness to Du Yu's eyes. He was also able to teleport away by tearing through space, but he couldn't do it as easily and casually as Han Li could. This made him a little more cautious, but he was still quite confident in his own abilities. Right at this moment, Taoist Zai also rose to his feet before sweeping a sleeve towards Silvermoon, and Zhu Gyur releasing a burst of silver light to envelop both of them. Immediately thereafter, the three of them also vanished amid a flash of silver lightning, and Du Yu's heart jolted again upon seeing this. He immediately turned to Elder Gu and asked, "Who was that fellow Taoist, Brother Gu? He seems to be quite powerful as well." Their attention had been entirely focused on Han Li before, and Taoist Zai had intentionally repressed his own aura, so no one had paid him much heed. However, Elder Gu was just as shocked as Du Yu was, and after exchanging a glance with the other elders, he shook his head and replied, "This is the first time I've seen that fellow Taoist as well." After a brief moment of hesitation, Du Yu's expression returned to normal and he said, "I guess we'll find out who he is soon enough. Besides, I'll be facing fellow Taoist Han anyway, so it doesn't matter how powerful he is. Let's go, Brother Gu." Elder Gu could only repress his own astonishment as well upon hearing this, and nodded in response. Thus, everyone also departed from the hall one after another. Round 15 minutes later, a giant light barrier was activated within a massive hall with an area of several thousand feet, encompassing virtually the entire hall beneath it. High up in the air within the light barrier, Han Li and Du Yu were facing one another from afar. Du Yu was wearing a rather wary expression, while Han Li was relaxed as ever and had his hands clasped behind his back. "Let me just ascertain one final time that you'll allow me to take your disciple as long as I can withstand an attack from you," Du Yu suddenly said. "That's right. As long as you can withstand a single attack from me, I won't oppose you even if you intend to take all of my disciples to the Holy Island. However, if you can't, then you'll have to go back to the Holy Island empty-handed," Han Li replied in an uncompromising manner. "All right, then go ahead," Du Yu prompted with a dark expression. Han Li chuckled coldly upon hearing this, and all of a sudden, his Provenance True Devil projection appeared behind him amid a flash of golden light. Letter 1D65B, letter 1D493, letter 1D4E, letter 1D65A, letter 1D500, letter 1D486, letter 1D658, letter 1D490, letter 1D4AT. Immediately thereafter, a gust of fierce winds erupted from the projection's body, and it made a hand seal with each of its 6 hands in unison, upon which it swelled to around 800 feet in size, with countless arcs of golden lightning coursing all over its body. The projection opened all 6 of its eyes at once, then slowly reached out with a giant hand before making a grabbing motion. The massive hand seemed to be moving very slowly, but it was exerting a terrifying aura that threatened to crush the entire space. Du Yu's expression changed drastically upon sensing this fearsome aura, and he immediately laid a hand onto the back of his own head, then opened his mouth to release a jade book that was enshrouded in a ball of white light. At the same time, he swept his other sleeve through the air, summoning a pristine white inkstone amid a burst of white mist. The inkstone contained a type of unknown silver liquid, and as soon as the 2 items emerged, they began to revolve above Du Yu's head, with one treasure releasing a burst of 5-colored light, and countless golden and silver runes surging out of the other in a frenzy. Among these 2 items, one was a powerful divine spirit treasure, while the other was an even rarer treasure refined from a fragment of a profound heavenly treasure. A hint of surprise flashed through Han Li's eyes at the sight of these 2 treasures, but he then immediately harumphed coldly, and a series of silver patterns surfaced on the descending giant palm, forming around a dozen silver formations of different sizes at once. In the next instant, the massive golden hand swelled slightly in size, then instantly turned a purplish golden color. The spiritual pressure it was releasing immediately became 4 times more powerful, and it continued to descend with astonishing might. In the face of this burst of terrifying spiritual pressure, Du Yu shuddered slightly and took several involuntary steps backward, following which a hint of fear surfaced in his eyes. Even though he was at the pinnacle of the late body integration stage, he felt like this burst of spiritual pressure could crush him to a pulp in an instant. No, this definitely isn't late body integration stage power. Only a grand ascension stage being could unleash such fearsome power. Du Yu almost instantly realized exactly what he had gotten himself into, and he immediately tried to call for help, but the terrifying spiritual pressure weighing down upon him prevented him from being able to utter so much as a single sound. Chapter 22:01 Crushed by a Single Attack. Du Yu's horror had mounted to a peak, and in the face of the unstoppable purplish-golden hand, he knew that he had to fight for his own life. Evil vanquishing holy projection. He quickly made a hand seal, following which a white nascent soul that was around half a foot tall immediately flew out of the top of his head. The nascent soul bore a strong resemblance to Du Yu, and as soon as it appeared, it opened its mouth in an urgent manner to expel a ball of shimmering golden blood essence. In the instant that the ball of blood essence was expelled, Du Yu's youthful face suddenly became wizened and shriveled, as if he had instantly aged over 10 years, and his eyes also became completely blank and soulless. At the same time, a white humanoid figure that was over 100 feet tall emerged behind the nascent soul, standing in the air right above Du Yu. The giant humanoid figure was as clear as an actual person, but its facial features were completely blurred. It wore a set of white scholarly robes with a scholarly hat on its head, and its entire body was radiating a burst of indescribable pure yang energy. However, the giant projection merely hovered still in midair, as if it were incapable of movement. All of a sudden, Du Yu pointed a finger upward, and the ball of golden blood essence instantly exploded, forming a huge golden rune that vanished into the projection's body in a flash. A burst of translucent light flashed over the projection's face, following which an extremely authoritative set of facial features appeared. At this point, the massive purplish golden hand was only around 70 feet away from the white projection. In the face of the terrifying power crashing down upon it, the projection's body was beginning to blur slightly, as if it were about to be crushed into nothingness. Right at this moment, the white projection suddenly opened its eyes to reveal a pair of silver pupils, then raised a hand upward before making a grabbing motion. A burst of white mist immediately surged out of its sleeve, then transformed into a massive white hand that clashed violently with the purplish golden hand. An earth-shattering boom rang out as the two clashed, sending powerful shockwaves erupting forth in all directions, causing the entire light barrier to tremor violently. However, the purplish-golden hand was only stopped momentarily before it crushed the giant white hand and continued to descend. However, during this split-second delay, the two treasures above Du Yu instantly appeared in front of him, then began to radiate dazzling light in unison. The holy projection raised a hand to conjure up a huge, five-colored brush, which was dipped into the unknown silver liquid in the inkstone, before being tapped onto a page of the Jade book. A burst of Buddhist chants rang out as brilliant five-colored erupted from the Jade book, following which countless silver runes surged out in a frenzy, converging to form a gigantic rune that was around an acre in size. The massive purple hand grabbed onto the huge silver rune like 5 steel hooks, while all of the world's origin chi within the entire light barrier surged toward the giant rune in a frenzy, causing it to swell by close to half its original size. Golden and silver light flashed violently, and the purplish-golden hand was temporarily rendered unable to descend any further. Interesting, but if that's all you've got, then it won't be enough to stop me, Han Li chuckled as he pointed a nonchalant finger from afar. A near-transparent incantation seal vanished into thin air in a flash, following which the silver spirit patterns on the fingertips of the giant purplish-golden hand converged to form profound formations. 5 balls of dazzling golden light emerged from the formations, then swelled drastically to around 10 feet in size each, then combined as one to create a massive golden vortex. All of a sudden, a burst of tremendous force surged out of the vortex, and in the face of this enormous force, the huge silver rune was unable to hold itself together any longer. The silver rune was destroyed amid a dull thump, following which the tremendous force came crashing down toward the white projection without any further inhibition. The space down below twisted and warped, and the giant white projection instantly exploded. A howl of anguish rang out as an indistinct white nascent soul flew down as a ball of white light, returning to Du Yu's physical body in a flash. Du Yu's lifeless body immediately became reanimated, but as soon as he reawakened, he threw up several mouthfuls of blood essence, and his aura also became extremely feeble. It was clear that the destruction of the white projection had severely harmed his nascent soul as well. The giant purplish-golden hand spread its fingers to encompass Du Yu's entire body beneath it, and the air around Du Yu abruptly tightened, upon which he was completely immobilized. His face instantly became completely devoid of color, but right at this moment, the giant purplish-golden hand suddenly stopped where it was. The golden vortex dissipated in a flash, but enormous power was still being released by the massive hand, locking Du Yu firmly into place. At this point, the outcome of the battle was all too apparent. Due to the interference of the protective light barrier, Elder Gu and the others were unable to sense the unfathomable power imbued within Han Li's last attack. But the fact that Han Li had crushed Du Yu's holy projection and powerful treasures with a nonchalant-looking attack was naturally extremely astonishing to them. In that instant, all of the elders of Deep Heaven City arrived at the same incredible conclusion. Meanwhile, the yellow-haired man and hideous woman were completely flabbergasted, and they felt as if their minds had gone completely blank. They were well aware of just how powerful Du Yu was, which made this outcome even more incredible to them. As for Taoist Zai and Silvermoon, their expressions remained completely unchanged. Han Li had already progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, so it would be far more astonishing to them if he couldn't crush a body integration cultivator with a single attack. At this moment, Han Li was appraising the two treasures that Du Yu had summoned rather than paying any attention to Du Yu himself. Due to the fact that they were no longer being controlled by their owner, both the Jade book and Inkstone had dimmed significantly, but they were still revolving around him like a pair of sentient creatures. Han Li waved a hand toward the pair of treasures, and a burst of enormous invisible force immediately acted upon them. As a result, they were both drawn into his grasp as two balls of spiritual light. As soon as they were caught by Han Li, they began to squirm and jump as if they wanted to escape, but instead of being enraged by this, Han Li was ecstatic instead. He rubbed the pair of treasures between his hands, and the spiritual light radiating from them was instantly snuffed out, following which they fell completely still in his hands. "I'll be keeping these two treasures. You can come and get them after you progress to the Grand Ascension stage," Han Li said to Du Yu in an indifferent voice, then stowed the pair of treasures away before suddenly vanishing on the spot. In the next instant, spatial fluctuations erupted beside Elder Gu and the others, and Han Li re-emerged in a wraith-like manner. "Fellow Taoist Han, have you already reached the Grand Ascension stage?" Elder Gu hurriedly asked in a panicked voice. Everyone else also immediately turned their attention toward him. I was indeed fortunate enough to succeed in my breakthrough a few months ago," Han Li replied with a faint smile, then released his Grand Ascension stage aura without any reservation. A burst of spiritual pressure that threatened to crush all things instantly descended upon the entire hall, and all of the body integration cultivators in the hall were forced to stumble backward. "You really have progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, Brother Han. No, Senior Han, please forgive me for my rudeness. Letter 1D4BB, letter 1D45F, letter 212F, letter 212F, letter 1D464, letter 1D452, letter 1D44F, letter 1D4B8, letter 1D45C, letter 1D62E. Even though Elder Gu had already figured it out for himself, receiving confirmation from Han Li and sensing his terrifying aura still came as quite a shock, and even his voice was trembling slightly as he hurriedly extended a deep bow after steadying himself. All of the other elders also extended respectful bows with expressions of shock and elation on their faces, while the yellow-haired man and hideous woman were left at a complete loss for what to do. However, as Han Li cast a cold gaze toward them, they immediately shuddered before also extending horrified bows, in complete contrast with the arrogance they had displayed before. Chapter 2202, Reunion. Han Li merely waved a nonchalant hand and said, "I haven't informed anyone of my breakthrough, so none of you are to blame." Elder Gu and the others were very relieved to hear this, and only then did they dare to stand up straight again. "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Han." In contrast, the yellow-haired man and hideous woman's faces were completely devoid of color, and they looked as if they had just seen a ghost. It was no wonder that they were displaying such a reaction. After all, they had just offended a new Grand Ascension cultivator, and one who was likely to be the only guiding force for the human and demon races for tens of thousands of years to come. At this moment, the purplish-golden hand within the light barrier silently dissipated, and Du Yu collapsed onto the platform, lacking the energy to muster up even a single word. Han Li took a glance at Du Yu, then turned to the yellow-haired man and said, "Take fellow Taoist Du away, and tell the elders of the Holy Island that my disciples are not to be used as cannon fodder. However, if they require my services for anything, I would be happy to help." "We'll be sure to relay the message, Senior Han. We'll be taking our leave now," the yellow-haired man hurriedly said as he extended another deep bow. The hideous woman also quickly chimed in agreement. Han Li nodded in response before waving a dismissive hand, and only then did the two of them dare to fly onto the platform. They then helped Du Yu to his feet before hurriedly departing from the sparring hall. As for the two treasures of Du Yu's that Han Li had taken, they didn't even dare to mention it. Of course, it must have been a long journey for you to return to the city, so it's only right that we give you some time to rest and visit you later, Senior Han. Indeed, I hope you won't refuse an audience with us when the time comes. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face at the sight of Elder Gu and Buddhist monk Jin Yue's respectful displays, and he merely extended a parting salute before departing with Silvermoon and the others. Very Silver Light looked on with a blank expression for a long while before murmuring to herself in a barely audible voice, so he really did manage to progress to the Grand Ascension stage. Looks like Sister Silvermoon really has chosen the right person this time. Letter 1D557, letter 1D42B, letter 1D41E, letter 1D556, letter 1D568, letter 1D41E, letter 1D41C, letter 1D5FC, letter 1D696. Her voice was filled with elation, but also a hint of wistfulness. As for all of the elders who had supported handing over Hai Yueshan to the Holy Island, all of them were feeling very fearful now that it had been determined that Han Li was a Grand Ascension cultivator. If Han Li were to hear about the stance they had taken and decided to take revenge on them for it, then they would definitely be in a world of trouble. Meanwhile, as Han Li's group emerged outside the hall, Silvermoon suddenly smiled and asked, "Are you going to let the Holy Island envoys go this easily, Brother Han? Aren't you worried that they'll harbor resentment and plot against you? With my current status, they'll be thanking their lucky stars if I don't harbor any resentment toward them. There's no way they dare to plot against me," Han Li replied in a nonchalant manner. That Du Yu was able to manifest a holy projection, so he's clearly no ordinary late-body integration cultivator. Aren't you afraid that he'll also progress to the Grand Ascension stage in the future? Silvermoon chuckled. Setting aside whether he'll be able to advance to the Grand Ascension stage, even if he does succeed, it'll only be a minor inconvenience for me at most, Han Li replied with a confident smile. Even back at the late-body integration stage, he could ensure self-preservation against Grand Ascension stage beings. Now that he had progressed to the Grand Ascension stage himself, he naturally wasn't going to fear other beings of the same caliber. That's true. Most importantly, with your current status, it would be unbefitting of you to stoop to plotting against a group of body integration cultivators, Silvermoon chuckled. That's true as well, Han Li replied, but he knew that if those Holy Island envoys actually posed a threat to him, he would kill them without any hesitation, even if doing so would be unbefitting of someone of his status. Several hours later, Han Li sat down on the main seat of the hall situated on the top floor of the pagoda he was residing in. Hai Yueshan and Qi Lingzi were knelt before him alongside around a dozen of their disciples, and all of them were extremely excited. "No need for formalities. I can see that you two haven't slacked off. Both of you have made good progress in your cultivation," Han Li said as he swept a sleeve through the air to help everyone to their feet. "Congratulations on progressing to the Grand Ascension stage, Master. Not only is this a massive blessing to all of us disciples, it's also a huge stroke of fortune for the entire human race," Qi Lingzi said in a respectful manner. They had been living in constant apprehension due to the imminent arrival of the Holy Island envoys. But not only did the dreaded envoys not arrive, their master returned instead, and immediately told them that he had already progressed to the Grand Ascension stage. Such a massive contrast naturally filled the hearts of Qi Lingzi and Hai Yueshan with elation. During Han Li's absence, Qi Lingzi had already progressed to the late deity transformation stage, while Hai Yueshan had also recently advanced to the deity transformation stage. The two of them were able to make such fast progress partly due to their exceptional cultivation aptitude, but also thanks to the huge amount of pills left to them by Han Li prior to his departure. With Han Li's enormous wealth, he was able to easily leave his two disciples sufficient pills both for their cultivation as well as for their breakthroughs. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to progress to this point so easily. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face, and he said, "I was quite fortunate to have managed to break through to the Grand Ascension stage. If it isn't for the customary celebratory ceremonies held by each race whenever a new Grand Ascension stage being emerges among their ranks, I'd be inclined to keep this a secret. There's no need for you two to do anything prior to the official announcement. Just send some people to deliver messages to the important figures in our human race so that all fellow Taoists will have enough time to ensure their attendance. The ceremony will be held a year from now in Deep Heaven City. Yes, Master, Qi Lingzi and Hai Yueshan answered in unison. By the way, where are fellow Taoist Ice Phoenix and Bai Guor? Why aren't they here? Han Li suddenly asked. Bai Guor returned following the conclusion of the devilish tribulation, but she went on a journey with some friends several years ago, and she occasionally sends some letters back to us. As for Senior Ice Phoenix, she ventured into the primordial world on her own several decades ago, and we haven't received any news from her yet. However, she left us with a soul lamp prior to her departure, and it shows that she's still alive and well, Qi Lingzi replied. The primordial world is a massive place, so it's not uncommon even for someone to remain there for several centuries. Fellow Taoist Ice Phoenix must have her own reasons for embarking on this journey, so there's no need for any concern. In contrast, Bai Guor is being a little reckless here. Her ice essence body's true essence will be extremely beneficial to those who are also using glacial cultivation arts, so she could easily find herself being targeted by sinister individuals. Send her a message right away to get her to return, Han Li instructed as his brows furrowed slightly. Forgive me for not considering this myself, Master. I'll get that done right away, Qi Lingzi hurriedly replied. Immediately thereafter, he issued an instruction to one of his own disciples. The disciple extended a respectful bow toward Han Li, then immediately departed from the hall. All of a sudden, a hint of a smile appeared on Han Li's face as he cast his gaze toward Hai Yueshan. Tell me about what's been happening with you recently, Yueshan. In particular, tell me about how you disclosed the existence of your recessive lightning spiritual root. An awkward look appeared on Hai Yueshan's face upon hearing this, and he replied, Let's not go into detail about that. I know what I did wrong, Master. HMPH, what did I tell you before I left? Your recessive lightning spiritual root could get you killed, so you have to be careful not to reveal its existence to anyone. What did you do? You go and tell everyone in a drunken rant. If I hadn't returned in time, you would have brought disaster upon yourself, and perhaps even your senior martial brother as well, Han Li said as a cold look appeared on his face. I won't do it again, Master, Hai Yueshan hurriedly replied as he fell to his knees again. Now that I'm at the Grand Ascension stage, I was able to easily turn down the Holy Island envoys, but your recessive lightning spiritual root is one of very few things that can weaken lightning tribulations. If a powerful Grand Ascension state, being from a foreign race, comes to me asking for you, what am I supposed to do? Han Li continued in a cold voice. Hai Yueshan's face paled slightly upon hearing this, and he didn't even dare to raise his head as he replied, This is all my fault, Master. If that day comes, then just hand me over. I deserve to reap what I sow. Hand you over? Don't even think about it. My reputation would be swept to the ground if I were to do that. After this celebratory ceremony, adopt a different name and leave this place for now. Only return to me after everything subsides and you're no longer under any scrutiny, Han Li said after a brief moment of contemplation. Chapter 2203, Stunning the Two Races. Hai Yueshan immediately understood that Han Li was preparing to handle all of the pressure of the situation on his own, and he was extremely grateful as he kowtowed to Han Li twice in succession. After that, Han Li pointed at Silvermoon and Taoist Zai and said, These fellow Taoists Silvermoon and fellow Taoist Zai, they are to be treated with the same respect as you treat me. Come and pay your respects to them. We pay our respects to Senior Silvermoon and Senior Zai. Qi Lingzi had already noticed Silvermoon and Taoist Zai, and he immediately offered his respects to them alongside his disciples at Han Li's behest. Silvermoon waved a hand with a smile, while Taoist Zai nodded in an expressionless manner. This here is Yu Guor. Her name is only one character different from Bai Guor. I was quite surprised as well when I first heard her name. However, she has no relation to Bai Guor. Instead, she comes from a secret place that very few people know about. I'll tell you about the specifics later, but for now, all you have to know is that she'll be by my side for some time, so just treat her like a normal junior martial sister, Han Li introduced. Letter 1D453, letter 1D633, letter 1D452, letter 1D452, letter 1D4CC, letter 1D626, letter 1D624, letter 1D45C, letter 1D45A. Greetings, Junior Martial Sister Zhu. I'm sure Junior Martial Sister Bai would be very pleased to meet you, Qi Lingzi said as he cupped his fist in a smiling salute. I'll most likely have to stay with Senior Han for a while. I hope we'll get along well, Senior Martial Brothers, Zhu Guor said as she extended a curtsy toward Qi Lingzi and Hai Yueshan. After that, Han Li was filled in by Qi Lingzi and the others on the events that had taken place during his seclusion, and he was particularly interested in why the devilish army had suddenly retreated from the spirit realm. Unfortunately, Lingzi and Hai Yueshan were just as perplexed about this matter as he was. All he knew was that a truce was suddenly arranged between the devilish army and the panel of elders of Deep Heaven City, following which the devilish army returned to the Elder Devil realm shortly thereafter. Subsequently, the human and demon races were able to recover their lost territory very easily, and only very few devilish beings still remained behind, unwilling to leave. During this period of time, the human and demon races had focused their efforts primarily on repairing the damage caused by the devilish tribulation, as well as to eradicate the remaining devilish beings, and everything was progressing in a positive direction. Han Li listened carefully to Lingzi's description with a calm expression, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. After Lingzi concluded his recount, Han Li paused momentarily in contemplation before asking, "So you're saying that the two grand ascension stage beings of our two races suddenly vanished not long after the conclusion of the devilish tribulation?" "That's right, Master. Our cultivation bases are quite lackluster, but we have some ties with the disciples of some of the elders, so we were made aware of the situation as soon as it unfolded. The disappearance of the two seniors is most likely also why the Holy Island dared to force Deep Heaven City to handle Junior Marshal Brother Hai in such a blatant manner. Otherwise, there's no way they would be so brazen and completely disregard the relationship between Master and the two seniors," Lingzi replied. A cold smile appeared on Han Li's face as he said, "I'll be making a trip to the Holy Island sooner or later. By the way, there's something else I need you to do." "What is it, Master? I'll be sure to give it my best effort," Lingzi immediately replied. "Here's a list of items for you to track down. These items are extremely rare even in the entire spirit realm, so even if you can't obtain them, find out their specific whereabouts, and I'll get them myself," Han Li said. "Yes, Master," Lingzi agreed without any hesitation. Taoist Zai's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, but he didn't say anything. "All right, the two of you can go now. I have some things to discuss with fellow Taoist Silvermoon," Han Li instructed. Lingzi and Hai Yueshan naturally had no objections, and they immediately departed from the room. Zhu Guo also left the hall in a display of thoughtfulness, even though Han Li hadn't asked her to leave. Thus, Han Li, Taoist Zai, and Silvermoon were the only ones left in the hall. "Silvermoon, did you hear Senior Ao Zio mention that he was going anywhere prior to your departure?" Han Li asked with a solemn expression. "I did not. I am grandfather's only direct lineal descendant, so if his life is under threat for some reason, then he'd definitely tell me. On top of that, there was also nothing strange about grandfather's behavior prior to my departure," Silvermoon replied, and her expression had also become slightly grim. "In that case, it looks like your grandfather and Senior Mo's disappearance must be related to the devilish beings. Deep Heaven City most likely doesn't know any more specific details, either. Perhaps only the Holy Island will know something about this. It looks like I really will have to make a trip to the Holy Island," Han Li said in a contemplative manner. "There's no need to be overly concerned about my grandfather, Brother Han. My grandfather and I share the same bloodline, so I'll definitely sense it if something happens to him. If he's fine, then I'd presume Senior Mo Giantly also isn't in any danger," Silvermoon said. "Your grandfather and Senior Mo are both Grand Ascension stage beings, so it certainly wouldn't be easy for them to fall into peril under normal circumstances. I'm just concerned that they may have fallen into a devilish trap and are stuck somewhere, unable to escape. After all, trapping a pair of Grand Ascension stage beings is easier than killing them," Han Li said with a concerned expression. Silvermoon's expression changed slightly upon hearing this, but she was still quite optimistic. "Grandfather and Senior Mo are both very wise and cautious, so I'm sure that wouldn't have happened. Perhaps I'm overthinking things. I'll ask the elders of Deep Heaven City about this tomorrow. Perhaps they'll have some additional information for me," Han Li said as his expression eased slightly, to which Silvermoon nodded in response. After that, Han Li turned to Taoist Zai and said, "Brother Zai, I've already asked my disciples to track down the items you asked for, but before I gather them, I hope you'll continue to assist me. I'll remain by your side until you satisfy my conditions, or until it becomes apparent that you won't be able to," Taoist Zai replied in an expressionless manner, and Han Li was very pleased to hear this. Han Li and Silvermoon then discussed some other possible reasons behind the disappearance of the two Grand Ascension stage beings, but all to no avail in the end, so they could only set this matter aside for now and retire to their respective secret chambers. The next morning, Elder Gu, Buddhist monk Jin Yue, and almost all of the other Deep Heaven City elders arrived outside the stone pagoda that Han Li was residing in. Upon being notified of their arrival by Qi Lingzi, a faint smile appeared on Han Li's face. It seemed that these elders had all had sleepless nights, otherwise they wouldn't have arrived so early. Qi Lingzi invited all of the elders into the hall at Han Li's behest, and a meeting between the elders and Han Li commenced. A rather obscure conversation took place between early morning to noon, and only then did the elders depart with differing expressions. Shortly thereafter, news of Han Li's progression to the Grand Ascension stage was finally officially announced within Deep Heaven City. The human and demon beings in the city were initially in disbelief upon hearing this, but this was immediately followed by ecstasy, and many of them were unable to contain their excitement as they poured out onto the streets to celebrate. With a new Grand Ascension stage being among their ranks, the two races would be able to establish themselves within the spirit realm for tens of thousands of years into the future. On top of that, Han Li had already earned a resounding reputation for himself back when he was at the body integration stage, and he had lived in Deep Heaven City for quite some time, and this made the inhabitants of Deep Heaven City even more elated for his success, as if his success were their success as well. This piece of news spread like wildfire toward the rest of the human and demon territories, and of course, it was also revealed that the Grand Ascension Stage celebratory ceremony would be held at Deep Heaven City in a year. Everyone who received this information was extremely astonished, and they quickly scrambled to verify its authenticity. Upon ensuring that this was all indeed true, messengers were immediately sent by all powers to Deep Heaven City, expressing confirmation that they would be attending the ceremony. As for some powers situated too far away from Deep Heaven City, they had already begun preparing congratulatory presents and selecting suitable representatives to send to the ceremony. Thus, within the short span of only a couple months, almost everyone in the human and demon races had been made aware of this new Grand Ascension cultivator, as well as the celebratory ceremony that was about to be held soon. Even the nearby races, including the Spirit race and Xianxia race, confirmed that they would also be sending envoys to attend the ceremony. The only reaction that was rather peculiar came from the Holy Island. They seemed to be a little indifferent to the event and didn't make an effort to promote it. Aside from the various powers and nearby foreign races, many of the vastly renowned vagrant cultivators of the human and demon races had also come out of seclusion in preparation to head to Deep Heaven City. It was a common convention that all new Grand Ascension stage beings would hold a lecture during their celebratory ceremonies, disclosing their thoughts and experiences while progressing to the Grand Ascension stage. This was naturally an extremely rare opportunity for those preparing for the Grand Ascension stage breakthrough, or had been stumped by the bottleneck for countless years. Perhaps listening to Han Li's experience would provide them with the final catalyst required to make the breakthrough. After all, similar things had happened during some past Grand Ascension stage celebratory ceremonies. Chapter 22:04 Commencement of the Ceremony. To a mortal, a year was a period of time that could be referred to as neither short or long, but to some cultivators who were constantly in seclusion, a year was akin to the blink of an eye. Ever since news of Han Li's Grand Ascension stage celebratory ceremony was announced, cultivators in the nearby area had immediately begun to flock to Deep Heaven City. As time passed, more and more cultivators arrived in the city, including powerful demonic beings who had come from afar. Some of these cultivators entered the Deep Heaven City, while others created temporary lodging for themselves in the mountain ranges near the city. In the final month leading up to the ceremony, even more cultivators rushed to the city, with over 100,000 new arrivals almost every day, and the city became extremely lively and bustling as a result. Some of the cultivators took advantage of this opportunity to seek out others and establish relationships, or set up all types of small markets to exchange for the resources they required. As for Deep Heaven City itself, it would hold an official auction almost once every week. During these auctions, all types of rare items were frequently being presented, and even the elders of the city benefited immensely from these auctions, securing many spirit medicines and other exotic items that they would have otherwise been unable to. Several days prior to the commencement of the ceremony, the cultivators residing in the nearby mountain ranges also began to enter the city en masse. Letter 1D4EF, letter 1D667, letter 1D4E, letter 1D4E, letter 1D498, letter 1D4E, letter 1D486, letter 1D4EC, letter 1D4F8, letter 1D4AT. Deep Heaven City was extremely massive, but with such a huge influx of new arrivals, it was becoming quite crowded. Overpopulation had suddenly become an issue, and there were even some cultivators who couldn't find any places to stay. The panel of elders of Deep Heaven City immediately addressed this issue by opening up some stone pagodas inhabited by the city guards, as well as some underground secret chambers, as extra lodging. On top of that, they also built several temporary pavilions for the new arrivals to stay in a few secluded corners of the city, and only then were they able to just barely resolve the issue of insufficient lodging. Of course, due to the enormous and spontaneous increase in population, all types of trouble and unrest began to arise in the city, but the panel of elders was very proactive and quickly resolved all of these problems one after another. Everyone knew that there was no way that they would all be permitted to attend the ceremony. In fact, it was most likely the case that only less than 1% of everyone present would be able to attend. As such, most of them had arrived in the city to find opportunities for themselves, as such a massive gathering of high-grade cultivators most likely wouldn't arise again for thousands of years. As long as one remained vigilant, perhaps they could find a powerful master, or join a renowned sect, or exchange for an item that they'd been searching for many years. In any case, this was a situation that presented countless opportunities. On this day, while it was still very early in the morning, a pristine white platform that was over 100 feet tall had appeared on a boundless plaza at the center of Deep Heaven City. There was an unknown object that was around 30 feet tall on the platform, concealed under a piece of golden fabric, and there was a half-naked muscly-bound man standing expressionlessly next to it. The area near the platform was surrounded by tens of thousands of guards wearing armor of different colors, and even the elders of Deep Heaven City were among these guards. Everyone was looking up at the sky, where the sun had just begun to rise, with solemn looks on their faces. Shortly thereafter, the first ray of sunlight finally appeared in the distance. "It's time, strike the bell," Elder Gu instructed as he turned toward the muscly-bound man on the platform. "Yes." The muscly-bound man gave an affirmative response before stepping forward and tearing the piece of golden fabric away, revealing a luxurious and mysterious giant silver bell, with countless five-colored spirit runes etched all over its surface. The man then made a grabbing motion with his other hand, and a long golden hammer that was around 10 feet in length emerged in his grasp amid a flash of golden light. He grabbed onto the shaft of the hammer with both hands, then abruptly struck the giant bell with the golden hammer. A series of silver halos immediately erupted from the head of the golden hammer, spreading in all directions. Within the silver light, the five-colored spirit runes on the giant bell seemed to have sprung to life, flying off the bell and dancing around the entire Jade platform. Initially, the chime of the bell wasn't very loud, but the further the sound waves traveled, the louder they became, so the further away one stood, the more deafening the sound was. Thus, the chime of the bell instantly became clearly audible in every single corner of the city. Initially, people didn't pay this sound any heed. However, as one chime rang out after another, everyone's expressions began to change, and there were even some who directly exclaimed, "The heaven-shaking bell is being struck. The ceremony has commenced." Many people immediately rushed out onto the streets, calling upon some acquaintances before flocking toward the place where the bell chimes had originated from. However, most of the cultivators who had arrived in the city didn't possess advanced cultivation bases, and they remained in their places of residence with disappointed expressions. Only after a total of 81 bell chimes had rung out did the sound draw to an abrupt halt, and at this point, some of the cultivators living near the plaza had already arrived. A faint smile appeared on Elder Gu's face upon seeing this, and his lips tremored as he seemingly transmitted his voice to someone. A series of white light formations immediately lit up around the plaza, and even more armored guards emerged to surround the entire plaza, temporarily keeping out the cultivators who were arriving on the scene. The presence of so many armored guards effectively prevented anyone from trying to barge their way forward, and at the same time, the armored guards near the platform changed their formation to open up around a dozen patches of empty land. Around a dozen temporary teleportation formations appeared at the center of these patches of land, and some of the cultivators arriving on the scene were enlightened upon seeing this, while others were still as confused as ever. Senior Hand should be ready soon, right? Could it be that he's been unable to complete that thing in time? If so, the ceremony will have to be delayed, Fairy Silverlight said in a slightly uneasy manner as more and more people began to gather around the plaza. The power of a Grand Ascension cultivator is unfathomable to the likes of us. Senior Han instructed us to wait for him here a year ago, and I'm sure he won't be late, Elder Gu replied with a smile. Such a trivial matter naturally won't be able to stump a Grand Ascension stage being like Senior Han, but prior to his departure, Senior Han took close to a third of our city's supplies. Even though he only took very ordinary tool refinement materials, it's still a staggering amount, Elder Yan said with a wry smile. That may be the case, but just like you said, they're only ordinary materials, so we'll be able to gather more over time. If we can leave Senior Han with a good impression of our city, then those materials would be an entirely insignificant price to pay, Elder Gu chuckled in response. Indeed, Brother Gu, it looks like you're still the one with the most foresight among all of us, Buddhist monk Jin Yue said with a smile. Within a certain stone pagoda, Han Li was currently seated with his eyes, but his body was entirely enshrouded within a layer of purplish golden flames. Following the conclusion of the 81 bell chimes, Han Li's expression changed slightly, and he finally opened his eyes as a smile appeared on his face. I made it just in time. That item has just been completely refined and can be used during the ceremony. As soon as his voice trailed off, Han Li made a hand seal, and the purplish golden flames around his body faded. At the same time, he opened his mouth to expel a ball of silver flames, within which was an indistinct miniature three-colored mountain that didn't appear to be a substantial object. Han Li quickly appraised the miniature mountain, and a pleased look appeared on his face as he pointed a finger at the object. Dazzling light immediately erupted from the miniature mountain, and it abruptly vanished into thin air. In the next instant, spatial fluctuations erupted tens of thousands of feet above the plaza at the center of Deep Heaven City, following which a tiny three-colored mountain that was only several inches in size emerged. Countless arcs of golden lightning then erupted over the mountain's surface, and it began to rapidly expand, swelling to over 1,000 feet in size in just a few flashes, while emitting a terrifying aura. Immediately thereafter, spatial fluctuations erupted near the mountain, and Han Li suddenly appeared. He looked down at the masses of people gathered around the plaza, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. He then cast his gaze toward the three-colored mountain up ahead, before opening his mouth to expel a burst of azure light, which vanished into the mountain in a flash. The giant three-colored mountain began to rotate on the spot, and the three-colored runes on its surface surged forth in a frenzy while releasing a formidable aura. All of a sudden, a resounding boom akin to a rumbling thunderclap rang out, and all of the world's origin chi in the entire sky surged violently before converging toward the plaza as streams of five-colored light. Brilliant silver light radiated from the surface of the three-colored mountain, absorbing all of the world's origin chi, upon which it swelled drastically in size once again. Chapter 2205, revered by countless cultivators. Within the flashing lights, a gargantuan mountain that was close to 100,000 feet tall appeared high up in the air. Just the base of the gigantic mountain was close to 50 kilometers in size, and the shadow that it cast encompassed the entire central area of Deep Heaven City. Such a massive commotion naturally drew the attention of everyone around the plaza, and they all looked up with stunned expressions, only to be greeted by the sight of the enormous underside of the mountain. It wasn't the case that no one had seen such a massive mountain before, but no one had ever seen a mountain of this stature hovering in midair. What made this situation even more astonishing was that there had been nothing in the air just a moment ago. Even further in the distance, there were more people rushing over to attend the ceremony, and they were able to glean the entirety of the three-colored mountain, which filled them with a sense of awe and veneration as well. At the same time, the approaching cultivators discovered that the top half of the mountain was littered with countless pavilions, while the summit of the mountain was enshrouded within a layer of thin white mist, seemingly obscuring something from view. Some of the more curious cultivators ignored the guards on the plaza down below and flew directly toward the giant mountain. At this moment, the silver light finally faded, and the three-colored mountain ceased in its expansion. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face at the sight of the cultivators flying toward the massive mountain, and he made a hand seal in a nonchalant manner. Countless runes immediately flashed on the surface of the three-colored mountain, conjuring up a transparent restriction that encompassed all of the space within several kilometers of the mountain. All of the cultivators that reached this area were instantly repelled and kept at bay by an invisible light barrier. After steadying themselves, the cultivators exchanged a few glances, but no one dared to try and barge their way through any further. It was clear that this giant mountain was somehow related to Han Li, and if they were to irk this new Grand Ascension stage patriarch, it would be akin to committing suicide. All of a sudden, a casual male voice rang out from the peak of the mountain. I am truly honored to have so many fellow Taoists attend my celebratory ceremony. Those who are eligible to attend the ceremony can enter through the teleportation formations down below. I will be awaiting your arrival on the Grand Ascension Immortal platform at the mountain summit. The voice belonged to none other than Han Li, and he had used some type of ability to make it clearly audible to all of the people attending the ceremony. Senior Han. That's Patriarch Han's voice. A stir immediately ran through the nearby cultivators upon hearing this voice, and they all descended toward the plaza down below. At the same time, some of the attendees had already been arranged into orderly lines by the armored guards in front of the dozen or so teleportation formations on the platform, and they were teleported away in groups. The first batch of cultivators to enter the teleportation formations arrived within a hall on the giant three-colored mountain, and as soon as they emerged, they began to inspect their surroundings in a curious manner. There was already a group of white-robed servants waiting for them, and after extending slight bows toward these cultivators, one of the servants stepped forward as he said, "Please follow me, seniors. I'll take you to the top of the mountain." These servants were mostly at the core formation stage and nascent soul stage, so the cultivators that had arrived didn't pay much heed to them. They merely nodded in response and allowed themselves to be led out of the hall, onto a winding path that led to the mountain summit. Some of these white-robed servants were Qi Lingzi's disciples, while the rest had been temporarily borrowed by Han Li from the elders of the city. Their cultivation bases weren't all that advanced, but they were certainly fit for such a simple task, and they had been teleported into the hall in the instant that the giant three-colored mountain had taken shape. More and more people began to pour out of the teleportation formations in the hall, and once the hall was crowded to a certain extent, a servant would guide everyone up to the mountain summit. As the cultivators walked upward along the mountain path, they were greeted by the sight of a series of beautiful buildings, as well as strange and exotic plants and flowers. There were also some spirit beasts and spirit birds roaming their scenic surroundings, and there was no lack of rare and legendary beasts among them. Some of the cultivators became very curious upon seeing this, and they wanted to take a closer look. But as soon as they strayed off the mountain path, they would find themselves in a space that filled with white mist, and the ground beneath their feet would also disappear, leaving them feeling as if they were hovering in midair. These people were all quite alarmed by this, and some of them stood still on the spot, not daring to move, while others unleashing different incantation seals to try and break out of the restriction. However, regardless of what they did, none of the measures that they had taken proved to be effective. In the eyes of those who were still on the mountain, it appeared that the cultivators who strayed off the path suddenly stiffened and became completely still, as if they had been turned into puppets. They've fallen into an illusionary technique. Those who were more adept in the art of formations immediately identified what was going on. The white-robed servant that was leading the group remained calm as he raised a hand to summon a silver badge, which he swept through the air to release a burst of five-colored light. The light swept up all of the cultivators who had fallen prey to the illusionary technique and dragged them back onto the mountain path, upon which they were immediately brought back into the real world. Before these cultivators had a chance to react, the white-robed servant extended a bow toward them and said, "This mountain is a treasure created by Patriarch Han, and aside from the mountain path we're currently walking on, there are restrictions everywhere else, so please follow along closely behind me, seniors. Otherwise, if I fail to intervene and save you in time, something bad could happen." Everyone exchanged a few glances upon hearing this, then nodded with wry smiles on their faces. An illusionary restriction set up by a Grand Ascension cultivator was unfathomable to them, but one thing was for sure, it definitely wasn't something that they could contend with. The rest of the people to emerge from the hall were also issued the same warning by the white-robed servants, and aside from a very rare selection of reckless individuals, no one tried to oppose the restriction. As the first batch of people arrived on the mountain summit, the thin veil of mist there had already dissipated. A massive plaza that was paved with white jade bricks was revealed to everyone, and atop the plaza was placed countless futons of different colors. At the center of the plaza was a translucent pagoda with 7 levels and was several hundred feet tall. There were countless green spirit patterns engraved on the surface of each and every level, and at the top of the pagoda was a giant azure lotus flower that was around an acre in size. The azure lotus was in a half-bloomed state, and at its center sat an azure-robed young man, who had his eyes closed with a faint smile on his face. This man was naturally none other than Han Li. The leopard Kirin beast was lying beside him, and it was appraising the approaching cultivators in a lazy manner. Even though Han Li didn't pay any heed to the cultivators who had entered the plaza, all of them extended respectful bows toward him from afar, and only then did they dare to allow themselves to be led to a corner of the plaza, where they took a seat on the provided futons. The ceremony-goers who arrived thereafter also paid their respects to Han Li before sitting down on the plaza as well. Among them were individuals of both genders and all ages, and there were even some demonic beings with animalistic appendages and features. After these people had taken a seat, they immediately closed their eyes to meditate, not even daring to chat with those around them. Thus, the entire platform was completely silent. The plaza that Han Li had set up on the mountain summit was very massive, but it still only had a maximum capacity of around 40,000 people. Shortly thereafter, almost all of the futons on the entire plaza were occupied, yet there were still close to 1 million people ineligible for entry stuck outside the teleportation formations. After that, the representatives of the different powers also began to arrive on the platform. These people were guided by the white-robed servants to the inner circle that was quite close to Han Li, and these representatives also came from a variety of different races. After another hour, the entire plaza had reached full capacity, and the elders of Deep Heaven City had also arrived at the entrance to the plaza. At this point it was noon sharp, and there were 7 scintillating suns hanging up in the sky. Qi Lingzi appeared at the foot of the pagoda amid a burst of spatial fluctuations, then extended a salute toward everyone before announcing in a serious voice, "It's time, let the ceremony begin." As soon as his voice trailed off, the heaven-shaking bell tolled several more times, and 5-colored light flashed in the sky as a series of beautiful figures began to dance up above amid bursts of heavenly music. Countless 5-colored petals fell out of the sky from these beautiful figures, filling the entire plaza with a fragrant aroma. As soon as these cultivators breathed in this scent, they were immediately struck by a sense of great comfort and improved focus. This is grasswood essence refined from the essence collected from 81 types of rare spirit plants and flowers. Someone immediately exclaimed before falling silent just as quickly, realizing that their sudden outburst had been rather inappropriate. Expressions of ecstasy instantly appeared on many people's faces, and they began to absorb the fragrance in the air with all their might. However, right at this moment, Qi Lingzi suddenly said, "You may now pay your respects." All of the human cultivators immediately rose to their feet upon hearing this, then extended respectful bows toward Han Li in unison. "Congratulations on reaching the Grand Ascension stage, Senior Han." The envoys from the other races didn't say anything, but they also extended respectful bows toward Han Li. The congratulatory words were amplified by special restrictions, and they reverberated incessantly throughout the entire city. Chapter 2206, Envoys and Presents. Han Li waved a sleeve through the air as he sat on his azure lotus platform and said, "Please take a seat, fellow Taoists. Thank you for traveling from afar to attend my Grand Ascension stage celebratory ceremony. I haven't prepared too much. I can only offer you some tea to quench your thirst from your long journeys." As soon as Han Li's voice trailed off, Qi Lingzi immediately clapped his hands together twice in succession, and groups of beautiful white-robed women immediately strode into the plaza from all directions. Each of them was holding a platter, atop which sat cups of tea that they offered to the cultivators present. The spirit tea being offered was extremely exceptional, but it wasn't all that noteworthy considering Han Li's status as a Grand Ascension stage being. What was much more astonishing to everyone was that even though all of these white-robed women were very beautiful, they were all completely expressionless, and their movements were rather stiff, clearly indicating that they were all humanoid puppets. The arrival of several hundred humanoid puppets that were so lifelike filled most of the guests with amazement. And after the spirit tea had been presented, a burly man who was seated in the inner circle suddenly stood up before extending a deep bow toward Han Li. I am the envoy of the Heavenly Radiance Sect. As a congratulatory present, our sect offers you a pair of long-life insect shells, both of which are over 10,000 years old. We hope that you'll reach the summit of the mountain of immortality, and that your powers will rival the might of the heavens. The burly man summoned a yellow wooden box as he spoke, then removed the lid to reveal a pair of fist-sized insect exoskeletons, both of which were translucent and strikingly crimson, as if there were balls of fire burning within them. Han Li smiled and replied, "Your Heavenly Radiance Sect is one of our human race's 3 major sects, and I've heard much about your Grand Elder. I'll be sure to pay your sect a visit should the opportunity arise." The Heavenly Radiance Sect was extremely renowned in the human race, and not only did it have over 10 human cities under its direct jurisdictive power, the sect also had several body integration cultivators among their ranks. As for the Grand Elder of the sect, he also had a resounding reputation in the human race and had once slain 2 body integration stage foreign beings in battle. Unfortunately, he had failed several times thus far in his attempts to progress to the Grand Ascension stage. "I'm sure our Grand Elder would be extremely honored to know that he's in your thoughts, Senior Han. He's currently at a critical juncture in his seclusion, so he's unable to attend the ceremony in person, but he was the one who chose this pair of long-life insect shells as our sect's congratulatory present," the burly man said as he hurriedly extended another bow with an elated expression. "These shells are one of the main ingredients for refining spirit settling liquid, which is something required by all new Grand Ascension stage beings, so this is clearly a very thoughtful gift," Han Li continued with a smile. The elation on the burly man's face grew even more pronounced upon hearing this, and he handed over the wooden box to a white-robed servant with both hands, then extended another bow before sitting down again. An armored young man seated on the outskirts of the inner circle stood up and said in a respectful manner, "On behalf of Cloudguard City, I offer 15 tons of golden essence and 5 tons of profound yin sand as a congratulatory present. Your present is much appreciated." Cloudguard City was only a medium-sized city on the border of the human and demon territories, so Han Li naturally wasn't going to treat the representative with as much enthusiasm and merely gave him an indifferent nod. Even so, a hint of excitement flashed through the young man's eyes, and he hurriedly extended a deep bow before taking a seat again. After that, 2 green-skinned demonic cultivators with red hair presented a jade box in a respectful manner. "We are the envoys of Thousand Domain Mountain, and on behalf of our mountain master, we offer Senior Han our heartfelt congratulations, as well as 3 pieces of profound phoenix wood, 3 spirit enchanting beads." Thus, one representative after another began to offer their congratulatory presents to Han Li, and it didn't take long for dozens of sets of presents to have been offered. The representatives were all of different cultivation bases, but they encompassed all of the important powers among the human and demon races. All of them were extremely respectful toward Han Li, and they either offered extremely precious presents or presents of staggering quantities, clearly doing their best to leave a good first impression with Han Li. As for the vagrant cultivators in attendance, it was also quite an eye-opening experience for them to witness so many rare and precious items that they had only ever heard of in the past. Of course, as long as they weren't mentally handicapped, no one would dare to try and steal these presents from right under Han Li's nose. In the face of all of these offerings, Han Li maintained a faint smile and reciprocated with brief words of thanks. However, as a woman in a white dress rose to her feet, Han Li initiated a conversation for the first time. "So you've also come to attend my ceremony, Fairy Su. Are you here on behalf of the Su family?" The woman was none other than Su Qianyu, and everyone was quite surprised to see this. After all, her cultivation base wasn't anything special, so it was very unexpected for Han Li to be so hospitable toward her. Su Qianyu had been feeling quite nervous, but Han Li's benevolent display eased her anxiety significantly, and she replied, "I am indeed here on behalf of our Su family, Senior Han. I've brought with me 1 stick of East Sea Purple Flame Bamboo, 3 boundless spirit fruits, and a Heaven Void Cauldron. Our Su family wishes you luck in your journey to immortality, Senior Han." A hint of enlightenment appeared in Han Li's eyes upon hearing this, and he said, Heaven Void Cauldron, eh? I understand. You and I are old acquaintances, so why don't you stay and explore this mountain for a while? Perhaps you'll encounter some opportunities. Thank you for your kindness, Senior Han. Su Kainyu replied in an elated manner before taking a seat again, and many of the other cultivators present immediately turned toward her with envy in their eyes. It was quite clear that Han Li was implying that he was going to give her something, and that naturally evoked a lot of envy in everyone's hearts. After that, the representatives of the true spirit families presented themselves. Among them, the Gu family had sent Fairy Zio Feng, while Yi Ying was the representative of the Yi family. Both of them were also old acquaintances of Han Lei's, and witnessing this astonishing scenario made them feel as if they were in a dream. If they hadn't sensed the unfathomable aura being released by Han Li's for themselves, they wouldn't have even dared to believe that he had actually already become a grand ascension cultivator. As these two offered their congratulatory presents, Han Li also chatted with them, and that drew another round of envy from all of the other cultivators. This didn't appear to be anything important, but at the very least, it was clear that the two women really were acquaintances of Han Li's. As such, if anyone wanted to plot against them or their families in the future, they'd have to take Han Li's indirect intimidation into consideration. Of course, the Long family had also sent someone, and it was their new Grand Elder. This Grand Elder was a body integration cultivator who had remained hidden in the Long family this entire time, and he treated Han Li with the utmost respect, thanking him openly for informing the Long family of the death of their patriarch. Back when Han Li was still on Wood Tribe territory, he had already sent messengers to inform the Long family and Yi family of what had happened. He didn't know what their reactions to this news had been, but now that Han Li had progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, neither of the families dared to voice their suspicions, assuming they had any in the first place. What came as a slight surprise to Han Li was that the Black Phoenix race had sent a body integration stage elder as opposed to Dare. It seemed that she really was still in seclusion. Otherwise, there was no way that Black Phoenix Monarch wouldn't have sent Dare as their representative to establish closer ties with him. I am Ben Yue of the Spirit Race, and on behalf of the Spirit Monarch, I offer one each of the 5 elemental spirit cores, 3 balls of heavenly light spirit flames, 10 top-grade treasures, 100 pieces of azure lock wall, and 5 tons of deep-sea purple crystal iron. A humanoid figure who was enshrouded in purple light said as he extended a respectful salute. Welcome, I've heard much about the Spirit Monarch, and I'm truly honored to receive such lavish presents from him, Han Li said as he rose to his feet before returning the salute. The figure within the purple light didn't dare to accept Han Li's salute, and he stepped aside slightly as he continued. Aside from offering his congratulations, our Spirit Monarch also instructed me to ask you some things, Senior Han. All of the cultivators on the plaza faltered slightly upon hearing this, but Han Li didn't seem to be surprised at all as he prompted, "Go ahead." Our Spirit Monarch has instructed me to ask you about 2 things, and replies to both questions are optional, the Spirit being explained in a cautious manner. I'd be happy to answer the Spirit Monarch's questions, but I'll only permit you to ask me those 2 questions, no more than that. Do you understand? Han Li said in a calm voice. The Spirit being's heart jolted slightly upon hearing this, and he hurriedly replied, I understand. I definitely won't harass you with unnecessary questions, Senior Han. All right, then go ahead, Han Li replied with a nod. The first question pertains to Holy Maiden Thousand Autumns. Is she still alive? The Spirit being asked. No, Han Li replied without any hesitation. The Spirit being wasn't surprised to hear this, and he continued, Who was she killed by? A devilish patriarch, Han Li replied as his eyes narrowed slightly. Chapter 2207, Black Owl Monarch. The term devilish patriarch immediately sent a massive stir running through the crowd, and everyone's expressions changed drastically. Having just endured the devilish tribulation, they were naturally extremely fearful of the most powerful trio among all devilish beings. The Spirit being's expression also changed slightly upon hearing this, but he also didn't seem to be surprised by this answer. After heaving a long sigh, he extended another respectful salute. Thank you for your response, Senior. Please forgive me if I've caused you any offense, and I'll be sure to relay your answers to our Spirit Monarch. Han Li merely nodded in response. After the Spirit being sat down again, the other representatives of the foreign race also began to offer their congratulatory presents and good wishes, among which were several wood tribe representatives from the factions that had already become subsidiaries to the other races. Han Li offered his gratitude to these foreign representatives, and after that, a beauty in a yellow hooded cloak stood up from a corner of the plaza. After removing her cloak, an exquisitely beautiful set of facial features that resembled an artistic masterpiece was revealed. Impossible, it's very wrong. It really is very wrong. Didn't the Holy Island declare that no news of her has surfaced since she ventured into the primordial world over 3,000 years ago? A stir immediately ran through the crowd among those who were familiar with this woman, and all of them were incredulous to see her. It seemed that she was also quite a renowned figure. Han Li's heart stirred slightly upon seeing this, and he cast his gaze toward her to find that she was only at the mid-body integration stage. But her aura was very peculiar, and there was faint light emanating from her skin, further accentuating her stunning beauty. It was clear that this woman was no ordinary body integration cultivator, and was using very special cultivation arts. "May I ask your name?" Han Li asked. "I'm Li Rong, and I'm here on behalf of the Holy Island to congratulate you on becoming our human race's second Grand Ascension cultivator. I bring with me a top-grade flying ark, 10 exceptional female servants, 100 top-grade spirit beasts, and 1,000 armored warrior puppets," Li Rong said as she extended a salute with a sweet smile, and her voice was as pleasant to the ears as heavenly music. "I see. I must thank the Holy Island for these precious gifts, and I'll be sure to pay the island a visit after the ceremony," Han Li replied with a nod. "We would certainly be honored to have you on our island, Senior Han. My fellow Taoists on the Holy Island have some very important things to discuss with you," Li Rong said with a smile. Han Li merely nodded in an ambiguous manner in response. "There's also something else who's sneaking around back there." Just as Li Rong was about to say something else, Han Li's expression suddenly darkened, and he abruptly swept a sleeve toward the distance. A burst of invisible force passed through the restrictions around the giant mountain, then struck something with a heavy impact several kilometers away. A ball of black light abruptly exploded, and a burly black-armored man appeared out of thin air. Letter 1D65B, letter 1D493, letter 1D486, letter 1D65A, letter 1D498, letter 1D486, letter 1D484, letter 1D490, letter 1D4F6. The man wore a surprised expression, clearly not expecting to have been discovered by Han Li from so far away, but he then burst into nonchalant laughter. "Haha, I came of my own accord without an invitation, but I'm sure I'm still welcome here, right?" The burly man then cupped his fist in a salute from afar, before covering a distance of several kilometers with a single stride, appearing right above the three-colored mountain, then descended in a nonchalant manner. The light barriers formed by the restrictions around the mountain were instantly torn apart by the burly man's body, and he arrived right above the plaza, looking on at Han Li from afar with his arms crossed. All of the cultivators present faltered initially upon seeing this, following which some of the more short-tempered human cultivators immediately began to hurl verbal insults at the intruder. Even some of the more steadfast individuals present were quite dismayed by the burly man's rude intrusion. "It's the Black Owl monarch of the Xianxia race." Li Rong immediately drew a sharp breath upon identifying the burly man. Black Owl monarch. Han Li's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this. Those who were insulting the burly man had clearly all heard of this name, and their voices abruptly cut off as horrified looks appeared on their faces. "Oh, you've seen me before," the burly man asked in a surprised manner as he turned toward Li Rong. Li Rong's face was slightly pale as she hurriedly replied in a fearful manner, "I once saw you several thousand years ago with Master Mo, Senior." "So you're the little girl who was following old man Mo around. You've done quite well to have reached the body integration stage in such a short time." There was undisguised lust in the Black Owl monarch's eyes as he spoke, and Li Rong's heart immediately sank as the urge to flee surfaced in her mind. Thankfully, they were still in Deep Heaven City, and there was a new Grand Ascension stage human being present, so she was able to repress her own fear and cast her eyes downward to avoid the Black Owl monarch's sinister gaze. "Welcome, fellow Taoist Black Owl. I'm truly honored to have you here." Han Li finally spoke, and his expression was completely calm, making it impossible to glean his thoughts. You are the second Grand Ascension stage being of the human race, and the only new Grand Ascension stage being in all of our races for close to 10,000 years. Of course I had to pay you a visit and gather some experience from you." The Black Owl monarch chuckled in response. "I see. Unfortunately, I've only just progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, so I don't have any experience to offer. Prepare a seat for fellow Taoist Black Owl, Han Li instructed. Yes, master, Qi Lingzi immediately replied. However, the Black Owl monarch waved an impatient hand and said, "There's no need for that. I only have some things to speak to you about before I leave." "Oh, what would you like to discuss with me, fellow Taoist Black Owl?" Han Li asked calmly. "The primary reason I came here was to witness your powers for myself, and you certainly haven't disappointed me, considering you were able to detect me from so far away. Secondly, I want to borrow someone from you. Actually, I changed my mind. I want to borrow 2 people now," the Black Owl monarch said as a sinister look appeared on his face. "Which 2 people are you referring to?" Han Li's eyes narrowed slightly upon hearing this. "I heard that one of your disciples possesses a recessive lightning spiritual root. I'd like to employ his services to help me transcend my next heavenly tribulation. As for the second person, that would be this fine celestial maiden here. She's caught my eye, and I'd like her to be my servant," the Black Owl monarch said in a rumbling voice, much to the astonishment of all of the cultivators present. "What, he wants to take Senior Han's disciple? And he wants very wrong to be his servant. How dare he?" Many of the cultivators present immediately flared up with rage, but they didn't dare to actively oppose a Grand Ascension stage being, so they could only look on with fury burning in their eyes. Li Rong's expression became extremely strained upon hearing this, and she said in a cold voice, "How dare you, Black Owl monarch? Have you forgotten Master Mo's warning to you?" "Master Mo? Haha, you humans sure do like to deceive yourselves. Do you really think that I don't know that Old Man Mo and Old Man Owl have disappeared from your races? If I hadn't known that, do you think I would have dared to come here?" The Black Owl monarch burst into raucous laughter, and everyone's expressions changed drastically upon hearing this. "What's happened to Senior Mo and Senior Owl? He must be lying. How could something happen to those 2 seniors?" Having said that, there really has been no news about those 2 seniors for the past several decades. Everyone on the plaza had become extremely panicked upon hearing this, while the foreign representatives all displayed differing reactions. "Fellow Taoist Han, you're not going to bring disaster to your race over those 2 people, right? You've only just reached the Grand Ascension stage, and it would take you at least several centuries to fully master your newfound power, so you're no match for me," the Black Owl monarch threatened in a cold voice. "I see, so you're here to cause trouble rather than actually attend my celebratory ceremony," Han Li chuckled in response. "Cause trouble? I guess you can say that, fellow Taoist Han." The Black Owl monarch had done away with all semblance of pleasantries. "All right, in that case, it'll be my duty to kick out an unwelcome guest like you and teach you a lesson," Han Li said as a cold look appeared in his eyes. As soon as his voice trailed off, he made a hand seal, and countless streaks of 5-colored light erupted from all parts of the plaza, sweeping directly toward the Black Owl monarch. At the same time, golden and silver lighting flashed in the air above the plaza, then came crashing down with devastating power. Han Li had unleashed the restrictions around the giant mountain without any hesitation. "You dare to attack me? What an insolent fool! In that case, everything I do from here onward will be justified self-defense," the Black Owl monarch guffawed with glee. Immediately thereafter, he clenched his fists before smashing them together, and black sound waves instantly erupted forth in a frenzy. Chapter 2208, First Grand Ascension Stage Battle. Both the 5-colored streaks of light and the lightning crashing down from above were instantly destroyed by the black sound waves, and the Black Owl monarch let loose a loud cry as he made a grabbing motion downward. The black sound waves immediately converged toward his hand, then transformed into a black Kirin projection that pounced forward violently. Letter 1D5F3, letter 1D42B, letter 1D6AT, letter 1D5F2, letter 1D6A0, letter 1D6AT. Letter 1D5F0, letter 1D5FC, letter 1D5FA. Gusts of glacial yin winds were swept up around the projection, causing the air to warp and blur as if it were about to be frozen solid. Han Li's expression remained unchanged, and he merely pointed a finger upward. A burst of silver flames flew out of his fingertip, then transformed into a giant fire raven that opened its beak to release a pillar of crimson light directly upward. A huge hole was instantly punched into the Kirin projection's body by the pillar of light, and the projection disintegrated into nothingness along with the glacial winds. The silver fire raven then unleashed another pillar of crimson light directly toward the Black Owl monarch, and it traveled extraordinarily quickly, reaching the Black Owl monarch in the blink of an eye. However, the Black Owl monarch merely opened his mouth to devour the pillar of light, then smacked his lips as he praised, "Not bad." All of the cultivators down below were stunned to see this, but a smile appeared on Han Li's face as he said, "We're both grand ascension stage beings, so let's do away with these little tricks. Let's use our true powers to decide this battle." "My thoughts exactly." The Black Owl monarch was infuriated by Han Li's condescending attitude, and he opened his mouth to release a green jade fan that landed in his grasp. At the same time, his body swelled drastically to several thousand feet tall amid bursts of swirling black light. The jade fan in his hand had also expanded to around 1,000 feet in length, and its surface was riddled with countless golden and silver runes. On top of that, the fan was enshrouded within 7 layers of light, creating quite a mystical sight to behold. The Black Owl monarch's muscular arm bulged as he swept the giant fan through the air, sending a vast expanse of 7-colored light crashing down toward Han Li and the people on the plaza. The cultivators on the plaza immediately adopted defensive measures in a horrified manner, and thus, countless treasures rose up into the air in retaliation. A cold smile appeared on the Black Owl monarch upon seeing this, and he pointed a finger at the jade fan, upon which a burst of black chi shot out of his fingertip before vanishing into the fan. As a result, the 7-colored light it had unleashed swelled even further, and the attacks from all of the opposing treasures were instantly nullified. In the next instant, many of the weaker cultivators present threw up mouthfuls of blood essence, both from magic power backlash and due to the enormous spiritual pressure of the giant fan weighing down upon them from above. The more powerful cultivators were able to just barely repress the effects of the backlash, but their blood and magic power were also churning violently, rendering them unable to unleash any further attacks. The Black Owl monarch had crushed all of the cultivators on the entire plaza, and even though it was only for a short while, this was still an extraordinary feat. The Black Owl monarch was very pleased with himself, yet just as he was about to burst into hearty laughter, his gaze fell upon Han Li, following which his expression immediately stiffened. Han Li was standing atop his giant azure lotus with azure flames rising up over 1,000 feet from his body to keep the 7-colored light at bay with ease. He was currently appraising the Black Owl monarch with a hint of a smile on his face, completely unaffected by his attack. The Black Owl monarch was further incensed upon seeing this, and the 7-colored light focused most of its power on Han Li at his behest. Immediately thereafter, a giant ball of 7-colored light took shape above Han Li, and Han Li's smile faded at the sight of the ball of light, but he then immediately harumphed coldly, "Know your place." As soon as his voice trailed off, he made a hand seal, and a purplish-golden projection with 3 heads and 6 arms emerged behind him amid a flash of golden light. Not only was the projection completely enshrouded in purplish-golden light, there were silver spirit patterns all over its body, and it instantly transformed into the substantial provenance golden body. As soon as the golden body appeared, it thrust all 6 of its shimmering golden palms upward in unison. A resounding boom immediately rang out up above, as 6 bursts of enormous power erupted upward, forcibly keeping the ball of 7-colored light at bay. The Black Owl monarch expression changed slightly upon seeing this, and he rubbed his hands together before raising them, sending a torrential barrage of incantation seals flying into the giant fan. Even so, the giant fan was still unable to descend any further. The Black Owl monarch was truly astonished to see this, yet before he had a chance to do anything, Han Li swept a sleeve toward the massive azure lotus flower below him, and it immediately exploded as 72 streaks of azure sword chi rose up into the in unison. The streaks of sword chi then combined to form a giant azure sword projection, which came crashing down toward the Black Owl monarch at an incredible speed. The Black Owl monarch harumphed coldly upon seeing this, and he raised a mountainous hand to catch the oncoming sword projection before tightening his grip, upon which the sword projection immediately exploded, unable to withstand the crushing force of his grip. The Black Owl monarch immediately burst into raucous laughter upon seeing this, but in the next instant, the azure light that had exploded through the air shot forth as a translucent thread that revolved around his wrist in the blink of an eye. A geyser of blood erupted over 100 feet up into the air, and the giant hand was completely detached. The Black Owl monarch howled with agony as he hurriedly tossed his giant fan aside before reaching for his detached hand. However, right at this moment, Han Li suddenly vanished on the spot, then reappeared beside the detached hand amid a burst of spatial fluctuations. As soon as he emerged, he raised a hand to lay a finger on the massive hand without any hesitation, upon which it instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. "I'm going to tear you to pieces." The Black Owl Monarch's eye reddened with fury upon seeing this, and he let loose a thunderous roar as 5 silver claws sprang out of his fingertips, each of which was several feet in length. The claws were then slashed downward like 5 sharp blades, in response to which Han Li casually lashed out again as a faint smile appeared on his face. Countless silver patterns instantly surfaced over his body alongside a purplish-golden light barrier, and as soon as the 5 sharp claws struck his body, they were immediately snapped like twigs bursts of piercing purplish-golden light. Arg! The Black Owl Monarch could hardly believe what he was seeing. Yaksha beings were renowned for their powerful physical bodies, and having just unleashed a secret technique, his grand ascension stage body was naturally powerful to the extreme. On top of that, his 5 claws had been specially refined, making them as powerful as spirit treasures, but they had been snapped by Han Li's physical body alone. The Black Owl Monarch was immediately struck by a sense of foreboding, but it was already too late for him to withdraw his hand. Han Li's arm extended by several feet amid an explosive boom, and he lashed out with a seemingly gentle punch to strike the opposing mountainous hand. A burst of scintillating light erupted alongside another thunderous roar of fury, and Han Li merely chuckled as he casually flew back to several hundred feet away, then steadied himself as a mocking smile appeared on his face. At the same time, the scintillating light faded, revealing an extremely encouraging scene to all of the cultivators on the plaza. As it turned out, most of the Black Owl Monarch's arm had disappeared, and what remained of it was nothing more than a mangled mass of broken flesh and bones. You progressed to the Grand Ascension stage while primarily using a body refinement secret technique. The Black Owl Monarch exclaimed with incredulity as a hint of wariness appeared in his eyes for the first time. "I guess you can say that. Seeing as you've already come here, why don't you stay for a few days in our human race before you go, fellow Taoist Black Owl?" Han Li replied with an ambiguous smile. "HMPH, don't think that these trivial injuries will hinder me. The show has only just begun. I was only caught off guard by your attack. There's no way a rookie Grand Ascension stage being like you could be a match for me," the Black Owl Monarch said in a vicious manner as bursts of black chi surged out of his body to instantly inundate the entirety of his massive frame. A string of loud cracks and pops rang out incessantly from within the black chi, and a hint of surprise appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this. In the next instant, the black chi dissipated, and it was revealed that the Black Owl Monarch had fully regenerated from all of his injuries. "So you've cultivated an immortal body. It's no wonder that you dare to fight me directly with your physical body," Han Li mused as he appraised the Black Owl Monarch. "HMPH, I'll concede that your physical body is more powerful than mine, but how about this? Reversing heaven and earth." The Black Owl Monarch's body expanded even further in size, and it swept an arm through the air, sending a burst of indescribable energy fluctuations spreading in all directions. "You're using the power of laws," Han Li murmured to himself as his pupils contracted slightly. "That's right, there's no way a rookie Grand Ascension stage being like you could have much of an understanding of the laws of heaven and earth." The Black Owl Monarch guffawed as a thin black line suddenly appeared in the air before him. Immediately thereafter, the line blurred, and heaven and earth suddenly flipped as the sky became inky black, while the earth abruptly became bright and clear. Chapter 2209, Crushing a Grand Ascension Stage Being. All of the cultivators were horrified to find that they had suddenly become completely immobilized, as if their bodies were being crushed under giant mountains. In contrast, a cold smile appeared on Han Li's face as he swept his spiritual sense through this black and white world, following which the Provenant's golden body rose up into the air as a streak of purplish golden light, then surged into Han Li's body. A resounding boom rang out as Han Li transformed into a giant purplish golden ape with 3 heads and 6 arms. The giant ape thumped its own chest violently with its 6 fists, then swelled drastically in size to around 8,000 feet tall as countless silver spirit patterns revolved around its body. The silver spirit pattern then fused as one to form silver formations all over the giant ape's body, as if they were a natural appendage. The Black Owl Monarch's heart jolted upon seeing this, and he immediately drew a circle downward with his finger. A resounding boom rang out within the black and white world, and a giant black and white ring with a diameter of around 10,000 feet appeared around the giant ape, then shrank to bind around the massive ape's body like a torture device. The giant ape looked down at the restrictive black and white ring with a cold expression, and a derisive sneer appeared on its three faces as all of its purplish golden fur suddenly stood up on end. Immediately thereafter, the silver patterns became extremely bright, and a burst of enormous invisible power surged forth in a frenzy, striking the massive ring with a devastating impact. The black and white ring tremored violently before being forced open, following which the massive ape grabbed onto the ring with its 6 giant hands, then crushed it into countless fragments amid an explosive boom. An unnatural flush immediately appeared on the black owl monarch's face, and he couldn't help but throw up 2 mouthfuls of silver blood. The black owl monarch frantically attempted to repress the backlash from the power of laws in a panicked manner, while considering how he was going to target Han Li next. But right at this moment, Han Li took the initiative to attack first. He raised his 6 giant arms up into the air, and a dozen or so silver formations took shape on each of his fists, then instantly fused as one. Scintillating light immediately erupted from his 6 massive fists, and he let loose a thunderous roar as he unleashed a barrage of countless fist projections upward. The fist projections then transformed into countless silver threads of light that struck the inky black sky with immense power, forcibly tearing it apart. The entire black and white world flashed violently a few times before completely crumbling away, returning the plaza to its former state. The immobilized cultivators down below immediately recovered their freedom, and they all looked up with elation in their eyes. Right at this moment, all of the silver threads up above converged to form a massive silver hand that was over 1,000 feet in length, which lashed out violently toward the black owl monarch down below. A hint of fear flashed through the black owl monarch's eyes upon seeing this, but he then made a grabbing motion to draw the jade fan into his grasp again, before unleashing another burst of powerful 7-colored light. At the same time, he opened his mouth to expel an inky black treasure that was rectangular in shape, and it instantly swelled to become a giant brick that was several hundred feet in length. The 7-colored light and massive black brick struck the giant hand almost at the exact same moment, and the entire sky tremored violently amid an earth-shattering boom. The huge silver hand was able to pulverize the black brick with ease, and the 7-colored light was also instantly torn apart, following which the massive silver hand abruptly appeared right above the black owl monarch before crushing downward without any hesitation. The black owl monarch was horrified by the sight of his 2 treasures being crushed so easily, and he immediately fled the scene, vanishing into thin air in a flash. Han Li harumphed coldly upon seeing this before lashing out viciously with a giant furry fist, and a silver fist projection instantly shot forth before disappearing in the blink of an eye. In the next instant, the black owl monarch re-emerged several hundred feet away, but almost at the exact same moment, the silver fist projection also appeared behind him amid a burst of spatial fluctuations. The black owl monarch was extremely alarmed by this, but it was already too late for him to evade. A resounding boom rang out as his suit of black armor was shattered by the silver fist projection, and he was sent flying through the air. Due to the ferocious impact, he was no longer able to maintain his giant form and reverted back to his original size in a flash. Upon steadying himself, the black owl monarch immediately threw up another mouthful of blood essence, and his aura was significantly debilitated. His suit of black armor was a supreme defensive treasure that had been refined using 49 types of precious materials over the span of several centuries, yet it couldn't even withstand a single attack from Han Li. This was extremely astonishing to the black owl monarch, and he immediately realized that he was no match for Han Li. As such, he rose up into the air without any hesitation to flee into the distance as a streak of black light, covering a distance of several thousand feet in the span of just a single breath. You think you can just come and go from my ceremony as you please? Sword observation art / Han Li roared, and as soon as his voice trailed off, his 3 glabellas split open in unison, revealing 3 inky black vertical eyes. Each of the vertical demonic eyes released a pillar of black light, which instantly transformed into 3 small translucent swords that vanished into thin air. In the next instant, the black owl monarch was just about to unleash a secret technique to speed up in his escape when his expression changed drastically, and he immediately took evasive measures. Right at this moment, 3 streaks of translucent sword chi shot forth out of the nearby space like lightning. The Black Owl monarch was able to evade two of them, but his body was sliced cleanly in half by the last one. A howl of anguish rang out as silver blood rained down from above. But what would have surely been a lethal wound for a normal cultivator wasn't enough to kill a grand ascension stage being like the Black Owl monarch. A black shadow flew out of the top half of his body, then transformed into a miniature humanoid figure that was completely identical to the Black Owl monarch. The miniature figure released a gust of black wind to sweep up the two halves of the body, then continued to flee into the distance. "I'll remember this. Next time I'm going to repay you 100-fold. The Black Owl monarch's enraged voice rang out from the distance. "Next time. Let's see if you can escape my spirit insects first." Han Li reverted back to his human form amid a flash of purplish golden light, then swept a sleeve through the air to release 3 golden flowers, which transformed into 3 massive golden beetles with sinister purple patterns all over their bodies. As soon as they appeared, the 3 giant beetles flew away like 3 golden shooting stars, and it seemed that their speed wasn't inferior in the slightest compared to that of the Black Owl monarch. These 3 faux gold-devouring beetles monarchs possessed late-body integration stage power and virtually indestructible bodies, as well as stamina that struck fear into the hearts of even Grand Ascension stage beings, so they were perfect for hunting down the severely wounded Black Owl monarch. Han Li was confident that even if the Black Owl monarch could escape, he would definitely sustain even further wounds, rendering him unable to regenerate during his return journey. As such, even in the best-case scenario for the Black Owl monarch, he would have to rest for centuries to recover to his former level of power. All of the cultivators on the plaza were stunned by Han Li's extraordinary display of power, and now that the Black Owl monarch had been forced to flee in such an embarrassing manner, everyone immediately erupted into a frenzy. Senior Han's powers are truly unmatched. Countless human and demon cultivators were yelling at the top of their lungs with fervent looks in their eyes. Han Li had only just progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, yet he had just defeated a veteran Grand Ascension stage being with ease, and this extraordinary display filled the human and demon cultivators present with immense confidence that he would lead the two races to greater heights. Raucous cheers erupted into the heavens, piercing through the restrictions to be audible throughout the entire city. Those who were ineligible to attend the ceremony had no idea what had happened, but the excited and fervent cheers were contagious, and they all erupted into cheers as well. Thus, the entire Deep Heaven city was instantly transformed into a sea of excitement and celebration. In contrast, the foreign representatives present at the ceremony were both in awe and feeling extremely wary after witnessing the battle that had just taken place. The emergence of such a powerful Grand Ascension cultivator in the human race was not necessarily a good thing for the neighboring races, and the foreign envoys had decided that the first thing they were going to do following their return was to report this matter to their higher-ups as soon as possible. Chapter 2210, News about the Blood Soul. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face, and as the raucous cheers subsided a little, he waved a hand through the air, upon which countless azure threads converged beneath his feet to form the giant azure lotus flower above the pagoda again. The unwelcome guest has already been dealt with. According to past conventions, I will be retelling my cultivation journey for 7 days and 7 nights from now on. As for how much you can benefit from my retelling, that will be up to you. However, in contrast with past ceremonies of this nature, I will be removing the restrictions so anyone can come to the mountain and listen if they wish to do so, Han Li said. His voice wasn't very loud, but it spread in all directions and was audible throughout the entirety of Deep Heaven City. All of the cultivators faltered initially upon hearing this, following which joyful cheers erupted once again. Immediately thereafter, everyone began to converge toward the giant 3-colored mountain in a frenzy, and even the armored guards responsible for maintaining order had abandoned their posts to rush toward the mountain themselves. Meanwhile, Han Li had already sat down onto the azure lotus flower and begun to retell his experiences and insights starting from the chi condensation stage. All of the cultivators on the plaza immediately began to listen intently with solemn expressions. A Tao retelling from a Grand Ascension stage being was a massive opportunity for anyone, so everyone was listening with rapt focus, even though the retelling had commenced from such a low cultivation base. As Han Li began his retelling, more and more cultivators flocked onto the mountain, and all of the space around the plaza was quickly packed to the rafters. As such, the people that arrived thereafter could only gather elsewhere on the mountain. Several hours later, The entire top half of the giant mountain was completely full, and there were still more people gathering on the bottom half. Regardless of where one stood, as long as they were situated on the mountain, Han Li's voice would immediately become clearly audible to them. Many people wanted to scale even further up the mountain, but they would often involuntarily stop in their tracks as they listened to Han Li's Tao retelling, falling into a special state of enlightenment. A day and a night later, virtually every single inch of the mountain was occupied, and everyone was completely silent with only Han Li's voice ringing out audibly from the mountain's summit. 6 days and 6 nights later, rainbow light suddenly appeared in the sky, and a flurry of flower petals rained down from above once again. Han Li's voice drew to an abrupt halt, and all of the enraptured listeners were instantly brought back to reality. Many people were immediately able to return to their senses, but they still appeared to be slightly disoriented, as if they had just awoken from a dream. Moments later, Han Li's voice rang out once again. "Thank you for attending my Grand Ascension Stage celebratory ceremony. The ceremony has concluded. You may all go now." For many cultivators, Han Li had only just reached the critical juncture of his Tao retelling, so they were naturally very reluctant to leave. But in their eyes, Han Li was currently like a god, so they didn't dare to oppose his instructions. Thus, everyone extended respectful bows toward the mountain summit before departing, and only then did the ceremony truly conclude. Half a day later, the three-colored giant mountain vanished amid a rumbling boom, and the remaining armored guards near the plaza extended respectful bows once again, before departing in an orderly fashion. In the hall on the first floor of the stone pagoda, Han Li was already situated on the main seat. On either side of the hall stood Qi Lingzi, Hai Yueshan, and the elders of Deep Heaven City. Bai Guor had also returned, and she was standing next to Zhu Guor, who was of a similar age, and they really did look as if they were sisters. Bai Guor had managed to return just before the commencement of the ceremony, and she was currently at the mid-deity transformation stage. As for the elders of Deep Heaven City, the respectful expressions in their eyes had become far more genuine compared to prior to the ceremony. It was quite clear that they had been completely won over by Han Li's dismantling of the Black Owl Monarch. Li Rong was also standing in front of Han Li in the hall, listening intently to his every word. "So you're saying that Senior Ao Zio and Senior Mo Jianli have entered the Elder Devil realm with the Grand Ascension stage beings of the other races to help the devilish patriarchs transcend the tribulation of the Elder Devil realm," Han Li said with furrowed brows. "Indeed, not only have all of the Grand Ascension stage beings of the neighboring races entered the Elder Devil realm, many of the super races of the Spirit realm have also sent Grand Ascension stage beings to assist in the same endeavor. That's why the devilish army was forced to abandon the territory they had claimed in our Spirit realm and return to the Elder Devil realm," Li Rong replied. "So in return, the Grand Ascension stage beings of our races must enter the Elder Devil realm with the Grand Ascension stage beings of those super races to resolve the issue in the Elder Devil realm. After all, if the Stembora Queen were to destroy the Elder Devil realm, perhaps our Spirit realm would be next," Han Li sighed. "Indeed, Senior Han. If it weren't for this agreement, the devilish army wouldn't have retreated," Li Rong said in a resigned manner. "I was wondering why no battle had erupted between our two races and the Shadow Tribe and Xianxia race. So it's because all of the Grand Ascension stage beings have entered the Elder Devil realm. The Xianxia race must have intentionally hidden the Black Owl Monarch as a trump card to usurp our two races. If I hadn't made a breakthrough to the Grand Ascension stage at this juncture, our two races would have been in some trouble," Han Li mused in a contemplative manner. "Indeed, if you hadn't progressed to the Grand Ascension stage, no body integration stage being would have been able to oppose the Black Owl Monarch. I'm sure that once word of what happened during the ceremony spreads, none of the foreign races would dare to plot against us again," Li Rong replied with a smile. "So the elders of the Holy Island would like to meet me to discuss how to deal with the other races, as well as to track down Senior Ao Zio and Senior Mo Jianli. Is that correct?" Han Li asked. "Yes, Senior Han," Li Rong replied. It was clear that she had already been completely won over by Han Li's scintillating display of power, and was telling him everything that she knew. "All right, you can accompany me to the Holy Island later. Aside from discussing these matters with the fellow Taoists on the Holy Island, I'm also quite interested in the Heavenly Tome Library and chaotic myriad spirit role there," Han Li said. Li Rong was ecstatic to hear this, and she immediately replied, "I'd be honored to accompany you to the island, Senior Han." Han Li then turned to Elder Gu and the others and said, "I'll have to trouble you to look after my disciples again, fellow Taoist Gu. Rest assured, Senior Han, as long as they continue to remain in our city, we'll be sure to keep them safe," Elder Gu assured with a respectful bow, and all of the other elders also chimed in agreement. "There's no need to be overly concerned. I'll be taking Yueshan away from the city for now. In his absence, I'm sure no one will cause any trouble for the city. Qi Lingzi, Zhu Gyur, you two can come with me as well," Han Li instructed with a smile. "Yes, Senior Han." "Yes, Master." The two of them replied in unison. Shortly thereafter, everyone departed from the hall, but right before Qi Lingzi left, Han Li delivered an instruction to him through voice transmission, and Qi Lingzi immediately gave an affirmative response before also departing. Han Li remained in the hall with a contemplative look on his face, and shortly thereafter, footsteps rang out outside again, following which a slender figure appeared before him. Su Kainyu pays her respects to Senior Han. "No need for formalities. I'm sure you know why I asked you to stay, right, fellow Taoist Su?" Han Li asked. Su Kainyu didn't dare to look directly at Han Li, so her head was slightly bowed as she replied, "I'm guessing you want to ask me about the Heaven Void Cauldron." "That's right. If I recall correctly, the Heaven Void Cauldron is an extremely important treasure to your Su family. Why has it suddenly been offered to me as a present?" Han Li asked. "Truth be told, I was instructed by the blood soul of our matriarch to present the Heaven Void Cauldron to you as a congratulatory present, Senior Han," Su Kainyu replied in a slightly uneasy manner. Han Li faltered slightly upon hearing this before asking, "The blood soul? Has fellow Taoist Ice Soul's blood soul already returned to the Su family?" "She has. Around half a year ago, she suddenly returned with severe injuries, but not long after her return, she fell unconscious from those injuries. However, prior to this, she instructed us to present the Heaven Void Cauldron to you in the hope that you would pay a visit to our Su family with the cauldron," Su Kainyu replied. "I see, so fellow Taoist Blood Soul asked you to present this cauldron to me after she was made aware that I had progressed to the Grand Ascension stage. Is that correct?" Han Li asked as his brows furrowed slightly. "That's right," Su Kainyu replied. "Has your Su family not tried to treat fellow Taoist Blood Soul?" Han Li asked. "The seniors of our Su family have exhausted all available methods for treatment, but all to no avail. Prior to my departure, Senior Blood Soul was still in an unconscious state," Su Kainyu replied. "All right, I understand now. You can go back. I'll pay your Su family a visit in the next few days," Han Li said after a brief moment of contemplation. Su Kainyu was naturally ecstatic to hear this, and she hurriedly extended another grateful curtsy. Chapter 22:11 Blood Curse Insect. 3 days later, Han Li departed from Deep Heaven City with Silvermoon, Taoist Zai, Zhu Gyur, and Li Rong, and the 5 of them traveled to the Su family. Following the retreat of the devilish army, the Su family had returned to its former site of residence, so through the use of several teleportation formations, Han Li was able to arrive after just half a month of travel. As soon as his arrival was announced, the entire Su family erupted into a frenzy. Not only did family leader Su Jiao and Su Kainyu hurriedly come out to greet him, they were also accompanied by the elders of the family, including Su Yan and Su Huo, whom Han Li had met once in the past. It seemed that the Su family had managed to preserve most of its powerful being, despite the devilish tribulation. "We pay our respects to Senior Han. Your visit is truly a great honor for our entire family," Su Jiao said as he extended a respectful bow, and all of the elders also followed suit. As one of the major families of the human race, the Su family had been able to maintain a hint of pride in the face of Han Li back when he was only a body integration cultivator. But they certainly didn't dare to treat him with the same attitude now that he was at the Grand Ascension stage. Han Li's group was invited into the main guest hall, and after sitting down on the main seat, he turned to Su Jiao and said, "I'm sure you know why I'm here. Fairy Su has already informed me of the Blood Soul's current situation, but I want you to give me a more detailed account to see if there's any additional useful information." "Yes, Senior Blood Soul suddenly returned to our family around 7 months ago." Thus, Su Jiao began a detailed recount. Han Li listened carefully to his story, and after the recount was completed, a serious look appeared on his face as he said, "So prior to falling unconscious, fellow Taoist Blood Soul told you that I'm the only one who would be able to awaken her." "That's right, Senior Han. As a clone of our matriarch, the blood soul is only at the spatial tempering stage, but due to the semi-insubstantial nature of her body, it's very difficult for her to sustain injuries. However, she's been afflicted by some type of condition where there is no visible damage to her body, but she's remained unconscious this entire time. I've already tried everything to awaken her, but all to no avail. I hope you can do our matriarch a favor by saving her. Senior Han, Su Jiao said in a careful manner. That's quite interesting. Let me see fellow Taoist blood soul for myself first. If I can save her, I'll be sure to do so, Han Li said with a faint smile. Su Jiao was ecstatic to hear this. Thank you, Senior Han. I'll take you to see her right away. Come with me, Brother Zai. Silver Moon Gyur, fellow Taoist Li, you can all stay here for now, Han Li instructed. All right, I'll wait here with Gyur and fellow Taoist Li, Silver Moon replied in an obedient manner. As for Li Rong and Zhu Gyur, neither of them dared to raise any objections either. The Su family cultivators had already noticed Silver Moon and the others, but the disparity between their cultivation bases was far too great for the Su family cultivators to be able to glean their true powers. As such, the Su family cultivators were treating them with a lot of respect as well. After leaving several servants with Silver Moon and the others, Su Jiao and the Su family elders led Han Li and Taoist Zai to the Su family's restricted area. Thus, the group soon arrived in the deepest part of an underground stone hall, where a semi-transparent coffin was situated. Within the coffin laid a white-robed woman with her eyes tightly shut, and a layer of black qi enshrouding her entire body. This was none other than Fairy Ice Soul's blood soul clone. Han Li approached the coffin, and as soon as he reached within 10 feet of it, he was immediately struck by a glacial sensation. Is this myriad-year profound ice? Han Li asked in an expressionless manner. This is indeed a coffin constructed from myriad-year profound ice, Senior. Only this material can slow down the rate at which Senior Blood Soul's aura is fading, Su Jiao hurriedly explained. Glacial power is quite effective for controlling most injuries, so it's not a bad idea to place fellow Taoist Ice Soul in a myriad-year profound ice coffin while you're still unsure of exactly what condition she's been afflicted by, Han Li said with a slight nod. He then turned his attention toward the blood soul to find that not only was there black qi emanating from her entire body, there was also a peculiar crimson symbol on her glabella that was flashing faintly. Han Li's brows immediately furrowed slightly at the sight of the crimson symbol, as if a thought had suddenly occurred to him. Senior Han, have you identified the root cause for Senior Blood Soul's condition? Su Jiao hurriedly asked. I think so, but I can't be sure. I'll need to verify her condition, Han Li replied as he released his spiritual sense toward the coffin. Moments later, Han Li's expression changed slightly, and he suddenly pointed a finger at his own glabella, upon which a third demonic eye appeared. As soon as the demonic eye was opened, a translucent thread shot forth from within, then vanished into the body of the blood soul within the coffin. In the next instant, the translucent thread returned with a thumb-sized crimson insect impaled on its front tip. At the same time, the crimson symbol on the blood soul's glabella instantly vanished. The insect resembled a snail with 8 feelers of different lengths on its head, and as soon as it emerged from the blood soul's body, it immediately began to thrash and struggle frantically. What is that thing? How did we fail to discover it in Senior Blood Soul's body? Su Jiao exclaimed as he stared at the snail-like insect with a flabbergasted expression. It's no surprise that you failed to discover it. This is a blood curse insect that has no detectable form and fuses with the host's blood. If I hadn't forced it out with my spiritual sense thread, you would have most likely never discovered it, Han Li said in a calm manner. A blood curse insect? How have we never heard of such an insidious insect before? Su Jiao asked in a hesitant manner. That's because this insect can't be found on our continent. Instead, it can only be found on the Blood Sky continent, the most mysterious of the 3 continents in the spirit realm, Han Li replied. The Blood Sky continent? How could that be? Su Jiao and the Su family elders were stunned to hear this. I've never been to the Blood Sky continent, but I did travel through the Thunder continent for a while, and I saw a description of this insect in a tome on the Thunder continent, so there's no mistaking it, Han Li explained, and the spiritual sense thread he had released suddenly unleashed countless thread projections that abruptly wound themselves around the crimson insect. The translucent thread vanished in a flash, and the crimson insect was also torn into countless shreds before raining down onto the ground as droplets of blood. The blood curse insect is extremely sinister and difficult to expel even for body integration stage beings. But once it's outside of its host's body, it becomes completely vulnerable, Han Li said with a cold smile. Thank you for the lesson, Senior Han. What will happen to Senior Blood Soul now? Su Jiao asked in a concerned manner as he glanced at the Blood Soul, who was still unconscious. Rest assured, now that the blood curse insect has been expelled, she'll wake up on her own eventually. However, I don't have that much time to wait for her, so I'll help her awaken a little earlier, Han Li replied after a brief moment of contemplation. Letter 1D4F, letter 1D667, letter 1D65A, letter 1D486, letter 1D66C, letter 1D65A, letter 1D658, letter 1D664, letter 1D662. Thank you, Senior. Su Jiao and the Su family elders were all ecstatic and extremely grateful to hear this. Han Li withdrew his demonic eye, then approached the ice coffin before suddenly pointing a finger at the blood soul's forehead. A burst of immense spiritual power immediately erupted forth as a pillar of azure light, vanishing into the blood soul's body in a flash. The spiritual power then surged through all of her meridians at Han Li's behest, clearing away all blockages in the process. The blood soul gave a pained moan, and her brows furrowed slightly as she slowly opened her eyes. Han Li then flicked a finger to release a streak of green light that flew into the blood soul's mouth with unerring accuracy. A faint smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this, and he departed from the hall. Bring fellow Taoist blood soul to come and see me once she completely absorbs the power of the pill. Yes, Senior Han. Su Jiao and the others were completely overjoyed. Taoist Zai remained as expressionless as ever as he followed Han Li out of the stone hall. Around 15 minutes later, the awakened blood soul arrived before Han Li in the main guest hall. How do you feel, fellow Taoist blood soul? Han Li asked with a smile. The blood soul was looking rather pale, but she still forced a smile onto her own face and replied, I'm fine now thanks to the essence replenishment pill you just fed me, Senior Han.